in podcast Detroit, recording live. Prepare yourself for a hoppy drive. If you're chilling at home, pop that crowler and just kick back for the next 2 hours. It's the end of the week, so here's to the weekend. It's Better on Draft with Rob, Matt, Nick, and Ken.
And we are live, episode number 174, the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. We are here in studio. We got a full studio going on right now.
And we have power.
We have power this time, yes. We did not have power.
Thanks, Nick.
Did not have power last time.
I had no say in that at all, by the way.
Guilt by association.
Yeah, I know, unfortunately.
How does that feel? Like everyone blames you when their power gets out? Like,
you know what?
I can tell when the power goes out in an area because your Facebook blows up.
You know what? When we had that really, really bad windstorm in 2017, my Facebook Messenger blew the fuck up. I had to ignore everyone for like 4 days.
You need an away message for your Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wish. Yeah, Facebook.
Bounce back.
Don't at me.
Yeah, Zuckerberg, get on that, man. Put an AFK thing up there so I can.
Real quick, we're going to go over, Rob, what are you drinking?
I'm kind of triple fisted at the moment right now. So I've got Old Nation Woodshed, Axel Brewing Secret Meeting, and I completely forgot. Oh, the Eastern Market Brewing Company's White Coffee Stout.
All right. And Nick, you've got more cups in front of you than Rob does.
Yeah, I do.
What do you got in front of you?
I got the that brewed IPA from Old Nation that was being passed on.
All right.
Whatever
the Woodshed series.
Woodshed series. And then I got the deconstructed Prairie Bomb from Prairie. It's coffee, chili pepper, cocoa nibs, and vanilla.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, I haven't tried any of them yet. We're gonna try mixing them all together later on.
Okay, Matt, what are you drinking?
Reconstruct.
Reconstructed.
I'm drinking Chicharrones, I think, from
Pork rinds?
Pork rinds?
whatever this Chicha beer.
Chicha Time?
That's the beer from Redline.
Yeah.
Chicha.
Doug, I'm not
Chicha.
exactly
Chicha
sure what
Time.
you call it, but I call it delicious because it's really good.
It is good.
It's like we talked about it. It's corn cider, basically. If you like corn and apple cider, it's pretty much that kind of beer.
I mean, would you like a beer that was made with chicharrones?
I
A
wouldn't
pork
mind-
rind beer? I'd be in.
I would give it a try.
Yeah, I would.
Without a question.
You know, I would like it even more because it would piss off the vegans.
Yeah, good point.
I thought that didn't Right Brain already make
Yeah,
this?
the Mangalisa.
Mangalisa.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
The chicharron goes.
I
That's how Chicha grows.
That's where they got the salt.
Matt, what are you drinking?
But they bought barbecued ones.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, I've got the
Barbecue
Chichigoza or I've got the
Chicha Time.
and then I've got I'm also finishing this brute IPA that's just kind of boring to me. I'm over this. I am over the brute IPA fad. It needs to go away now.
Well, I'm drinking the brewed IPA because I don't know if you knew, but I'm keto.
Oh, God.
And this is definitely a keto-friendly beer.
That's two.
So
Well, one.
Yeah, one.
1.5.
We do have someone on the phone. So before we go in studio and introduce our guests, I want to bring in the person on the phone. He just got out of City Built Brewing. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Nice place.
Hey, it's Mike from M4 Distributing. How are you guys?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm actually, yes, I'm now no longer in City Built. I'm now standing on a street corner like a hobo, waiting for my wife to pay the bar bill so I can come out and walk back to the hotel and drink some more beer. So,
Has anybody propositioned you yet? Do you know what your going rate is?
we're in Grand Rapids. It doesn't happen here in Grand Rapids. It's way too religious.
Oh,
to
it
happen.
doesn't happen.
I mean, where City Bill is, it's not a very busy street. So, I mean, it's like two
That means
lanes.
less competition.
So,
They know where to go for it.
Wait, when was the last time you were over at City Built? Because I'm literally sitting it's bumper to bumper traffic on Monroe right now. So it's
Lawyered.
where City Built at is a lot different than it was about 6 months ago. It's a lot
Mike,
more
roll that
crowded
pant
now.
leg
So
up and stick that furry calf out.
no. 6 months, about 6 months ago was the last time I was out there, too.
All right, and Mike,
So I apologize for not being in the studio, guys. Family stuff came up, and unfortunately I had to come over to Grand Rapids for the weekend, so I apologize.
that's okay. Well, we wanted to bring you on. What did you have over at City Built that you liked?
I'm a big fan of their caramelization, their Pilsner right now, which I know Jenny and Kyle are not surprised by that statement. But they have their caramelization, and they have a great beer on right now. Their Boomtown Brown, which is really tasty as well.
Brown ale is always a good way to go.
Yep. Can't go wrong
So
with those.
what do you do with
It's all going
M4?
back to the classics.
Oh,
that?
I agree. Go back to the classics. What do you do with M4?
So my wife and I are actually the owners and founders of M4 Distributing. So as people like to say, I'm M1 and my wife is M2. I like to refer to it the other way around. She's M1 and I'm M2. So my wife and I were the ones that started the wholesalership about 3.5 years ago.
Now, how does one just say, fuck it, I'm going to start a beer distributor? Like, that doesn't seem like it's a simple process to go about doing.
Well, no. For me, it was more, I've been in the beer business for, going on almost 21 years now. And I always tell a story about 5 years ago, I came home from a business trip, and I told my wife, I just said, I hate it. I was traveling a lot. We have 2 younger children who happen to be M3 and M4. That's where the name comes from. So it's Mike, Megan, Matthew, and Mackenzie.
Oh, you got a theme there.
I just traveled so much, and I wanted to start something in Michigan, and I didn't want to go, $5 million in debt by opening a brewery. So I decided, let's try this whole wholesaler thing. So I was talking to a friend of mine who at the time was the sales manager for Shelton Brothers Importers out of Massachusetts. And I said, hey, what's your guys' plan for Michigan? He said, wow, you want to open a wholesaler? And I said, well, maybe. He said, well, open a wholesaler and we'll go with you. So that's literally how it happened. And I came home, told my wife I was going to start a wholesaler and I was going to do it with her. And she literally looked at me and said, you're fucking crazy. No way in hell are we doing this. And then about a week and a half later, she said, okay, well, let's talk about this. And that's really how it started. I come from a background of family businesses. So for me, it was we always knew we wanted to do something for ourselves and some as a family. And, as we grow, we eventually hope that our children will come work for us and take over the business. And, we like to refer to our people that work for us not as employees, but family members. And that's the most important thing for us is really it's a family business. And that's how everything we try to do is from a bad family business perspective.
What is the most
a little bit different?
What is the most recent company that you started distributing for? Like, what's your newest line of products?
So we just started doing a little bit of small distribution for Central Brewing out of Novi. That would be kind of the most recent one. Outside of that, we were kind of a little bit of a hiatus, but before that, it was actually City Built Brewing out of Grand Rapids. So we handle City Built for pretty much the eastern side of the state of Michigan. They still self-distribute over here in Grand Rapids. But, who knows? We'll see how things work out for that. But right now, until they hit that 1,000-barrel cap, which is the maximum for the state of Michigan, they're going to still sell as much beer as they can first and foremost by themselves over here. And then when we get to that point, we'll hopefully talk to them about picking up Grand Rapids. So
What's it like?
Yeah, so most recently was Ascension, and then before that was City Built.
Now, what's it like competing with the big houses, the Miller House and, the Bud House, and competing for, shelf space, tap handles, and just kind of credibility even, since you don't have you can't walk into a place and say, I've got this brewery that everybody knows about. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can, but.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we do from the start is that any person that we look to bring on and bring into the family, from a sales standpoint, we really look to make sure that they are 100% within the craft game and they know what they're talking about, have a passion for craft beer, because for us, we don't sell a lot of big name breweries. So, outside of Wixom and, at the time, no one really knew who Drafting Table was, or outside of Milford, nobody knew who River's Edge was. Outside of South Lyon and Metro Detroit, nobody knew who Witch's Hat was when we all started distributing them. So really for us, it's more of making sure that we first and foremost start with someone who's got a lot of passion for craft beer, and then taking that passion and translating it over to the general market and how our salespeople go to market and actually talk about the beers. So that really helps out at first. But then the other big thing too is that, we don't handle breweries that are selling, generally as their lead brewer, as their lead brand, they're not selling domestic lager. We have breweries who are selling weird esoteric shit, and there's a niche for that market, and that's kind of how we exist. Is because one of the reasons why we started the wholesaler was because we saw there was a need for some of the smaller brewers in the state, whether it be City Built or Drafting Table, River's Edge, Witch's Hat, any of those guys, to basically go out, and nobody knew how to handle their beers because they were very, very small, and in their format they would get lost in a large beer format. So that's kind of what we do. So we're able to take someone like Ellison, for example, out of East Lansing, which we handle in Metro Detroit, in Kalamazoo and take them from, when we sign on with them, they're 350 barrels. They'll do over 6,000 barrels this year in under 3 years.
Wow.
So like they're doing extreme hyper growth right now, and we're able to go ahead and kind of work with them and and manage that growth for them. And that's kind of what, to me, ultimately, I kind of have a mantra or a saying that I work with these breweries is sell as much beer as you can across the rail, and let me handle everything else for them. And that's kind of like how we drive everything, and what we want to do is like our goal is to ultimately take our brewery partners and grow them as fast as they can and as comfortably as they can in a way that they want to do. And if they say to me, hey, we're doing 500 barrels this year, we only want to go to 650, I'm fine with that. We're not going to ask for extra beer. And that's what really separates us, because a lot of the large format wholesalers, all they care about is, hey, you haven't sent me any beer this week. If you don't send me beer this week, I'm not going to sell your beer, next week. So it's just a little bit of a different approach. It's more of a small time kind of approach. And as we grow, we strive to kind of have that feeling with our wholesaler or with our brewer partners as we grow. And that's what we really strive for, is kind of have that small time approach, even though as we get bigger, as they get bigger.
You guys do a lot of imports too, right?
We do. So, yeah, we also work with Shelton Brothers Imports out of Massachusetts, which is our first company we work with. And then we also work with 12% imports out of New York. So that basically encompasses brands like, from Shelton Brothers, like Kronbacher, a little brand out of Belgium called Cantillon, which I don't know if you guys have heard of.
Just once or twice.
I gotta get it out there. People are gonna ask me about it. So yes, no, I don't have any Cantillon in my warehouse. Don't call me. Don't ask me. I don't have any.
Do you have any at home though?
But yeah, but Drie Fontaine.
You said yeah. You said yeah. You have some at home.
Yeah.
We'll put your.
I got plenty of Drie Fontaine. We're okay. And then 12% works with breweries such as like Evil Twin, Stillwater, Against the Grain, and then they work with like Dudge's from overseas. They also work with Kilquin, which is another lambic brewer. So I'm actually pretty proud. If you think about it, we're kind of like the lambic and goose house of Michigan, because if you look at traditional lambic and gooseries, we have three of the foremost blenders in the world. We actually are able to represent. So it's pretty cool to me, because that's actually one of my favorite styles, which I think, Kyle, if you behaved yourself and didn't drink it last night.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Kyle had, I sent Kyle with a bottle of domestic-made Upland, essentially what would be considered a juice for you guys to try later on in the show.
Bingo.
So,
Is that what that big bottle is, Kyle?
That is this big bottle. It's called a Sour Reserve. It's Upland's version of a goose, so to speak.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's the favorite beer that you carry?
Upland.
Put him on the spot.
No, actually, it's probably Champagne Velvet. I'm going to answer it for him.
No, for me, honestly,
Pro
like,
Pills.
It'd be asking me saying which one of my children are my favorite. It's my son, by the way. Don't tell my daughter. She's weird about it. Totally kidding. No, for me, it's really about my tastes do change, and our sales staff and family members can attest to that. They're like, oh, Mike's drinking lager this week, or drinking kettle sours the next week. But for me, it's really whatever's really, really well made and balanced. I mean, that's the most important thing for me. But
such
right
a political
now,
answer.
I'm definitely digging on Dawn Street from Ellison is one of my favorite kind of hoppy beers right now. As far as lager goes, I'm a huge fan of Professional Pills from Drafting Table. And then also Champagne Velvet, which I'm sure Kyle has some with him.
Yep.
Champagne Velvet's kind of like my dirty, dark secret shotgun beer. And then,
It's true.
just really everything. But those are kind of couple of my favorites right now. But then, I mean, it's putting me on the spot. It's kind of hard to say because
Yeah,
I don't
you're
wanna
welcome.
piss anybody off.
And not De La Sun, Terrace Bulba? Not a shout out to De La Sun?
But what was that, Jenny? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Terrace Bulba? Not that?
Well, yeah. So if we're talking about Desert Island.
We didn't say Desert Island, to be fair.
Desert Island beer, hoppy 5.5% pale beer from De La Sun out of Belgium, which is, if you ask anybody that's been in the beer business for a while, they will agree with me. That might be the Desert Island beer. It's quite possibly when it's fresh, it is quite possibly one of the most beautiful beers you'll ever drink in your entire life. So yes, thank you, Dave, for reminding me of that.
Now, we talk on the show a lot about the craft beer bubble, and it seems that you'd probably be on the cusp of that, seeing as, kind of your business model. So where do you see craft beer going in the next 12, 24, 36 months as far as, brewery growth, beer distribution, all that kind of, all that stuff that goes into the idea of the bubble?
So, yeah, I think the whole notion of a craft beer bubble is not necessarily, outdated or anything like that, but I think that it's kind of it's not really true. I don't see a craft beer bubble. God, I hope for God it's not going to be a craft beer bubble, or I'm in trouble. But at the same time, I really think the most important thing is that as long as you have a brewery who has their own identity, knows their identity, and is brewing what they're best at and making really, really quality high-end beer, you'll be fine. It's the breweries that go out there and kind of start out as one thing and then kind of pivot to another thing and it's not as successful and then keep on pivoting or are not really making really good beer. Those are the ones that are going to be affected by the bubble. There's just way too much good beer out there now and way too much great beer that you have to be making exceptional beer to survive. And if you're not making exceptional beer, guess what? I'm not going to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you because for me, ultimately, when we sign on somebody, we want to make sure that we take them to what they want to have happen. So, we need to make sure that they're making exceptional beer and what they're doing is what they want to do and what the market wants. So I don't necessarily think there's a craft beer bubble. There's going to be this huge shakeout. What you're going to see is that the people that are going to shake out and are going to disappear are the people that weren't really making a mark in the business anyways and weren't really doing anything that was out of the ordinary or really did anything to stand out. I think from a stylistic standpoint, I've been banging the lager drum for years. I'm very happy that we're finally getting there. IPAs aren't going to disappear. Hazy IPAs are not going to go away. Hazy IPAs are not like the black IPA of 2018 or anything like that. That's not going to happen. But what you're going to see is I think that you're really going to see people moving back towards traditional styles, not putting as much bullshit or shit in beer, and really making clean, well-balanced, true-to-style beers. Those are the beers that get me most excited because you know what? You can't hide behind anything like that.
Yeah.
You can hide behind an IPA that's got flaws no matter if you put a bunch of fucking hops in it. You can hide behind an Imperial Stout that has
Preach.
fermentation flaws by putting fucking vanilla, coffee, and cocoa in it. You can do that. But you take a well-made Pilsner, you can't hide behind it. So,
It's funny because you said vanilla, coffee, and cocoa, and I'm pretty sure that's 3 of the 4 bottles of the Prairie deconstructed.
Yeah.
But I will also say too that there are no fermentation problems with that base beer, so it's okay. I'm not saying that those beers are bullshit. What I'm saying is you can hide behind a bad beer using those adjuncts, so it's different. So I think that Perry Bomb was one of the first beers we launched with, and it will always have a special place in my heart because that beer has done very, very well for us. And we can literally sell Bomb in the middle of the summer, which blows my mind that you're selling a 13.5% ABV stout with 4 different adjuncts in it in the middle of summer. And guess what? People buy it when it's 95 degrees out, and it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But my personal style, give me a Champagne Velvet, give me a Professional Pils, give me a River's Edge Kolsch, give me, anything else. Give me an American lager from Ellison, all well-made lagers, all true to style. Give me a Brew Detroit Cerveza Del Rey. With
Hell
a
yeah,
lager.
man.
Guess what?
Okay.
I am happy as can be. You put me on a beach in Mexico, and guess what? I'm drinking Modelo all day long, and I have no shame about it.
Nothing wrong with it.
Now, Mike, before we let you go, because I think Jenny's going to be able to chat a little bit more about the business, but we want to get to know you a little bit more. In regards to M4, not like what do you have upcoming, but who do you, M4, Mike Turriff, want to bring into the state of Michigan? Foreign or domestic?
First of all, I will not answer that question.
You're going to have to check the video later on that because Jenny was staring into the microphone as if that was the TV and she was watching
It's
you.
like, ooh, I got to hear this.
I was very excited.
Yeah, I just want to answer that because we have lots of conversations with lots of brewers. I mean, I had a couple conversations with brewers today. I had conversations with brewers yesterday. We have what we're doing right now, we have so much amazing beer on our plate right now that for us, what I really envision us to doing, and not to say that we're not going to bring anyone new in the next 6 to 12 months, because I won't guarantee that. But at the same time, we have so much amazing beer on our plate that for me, I really want to get back to making sure that our current brewer partners are taken care of, that they're respected and they're represented in the market. That's the most important thing to me, is making sure the people that we've partnered with are taken care of. So who we're going to bring in, you'll never get me to admit, because you know what?
I didn't say who you were going to bring in. I said, who do you want? Like, who's that? Like, no. Is that No Da Brewing? No Da? Is that what you were saying?
As Jenny can attest to, they have no idea until we sit down and we actually have samples in front of them, and I sit there and say, okay, let's be brutally honest. Let's go through all this beer. Let's try all this beer and tell me what you guys think. And then we'll have a discussion about who I want to bring in or who we're going to bring in. Because ultimately for me, who I want to bring in is someone who is going to be taken care of, who's going to be well represented in the state, and who our staff members, our family members, our salespeople are actually excited about. That's who I want to bring in. I want basically our people to go out and enjoy what they're doing. And yeah, it's a cop-out answer, but you know what? You're not going to get me to say anything different.
I think I might
True to his word.
Yeah.
I might be able to get you on this one. What is the best brewery that's not distributed in Michigan right now?
Firestone Walker.
Okay.
I'll agree.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to let you go. Oh,
Yeah.
go.
So before you get rid of me,
Okay.
can I do a shameless? Can I do a shameless?
You
plug
can
really
do
quick?
whatever plugs you want. This is your show for the next 1 minute.
Just hot ones.
So, if anyone's listening live, which I'm sure nobody is, because you guys.
Wow.
And you just got cropped out. Nice job.
I was gonna say if I didn't like you,
Oh my God.
Ashley Price is asking why you're not even here.
Look who just got cut out of the planogram at Holiday.
I'm over in Grand Rapids right now because tomorrow it happens to be April the 20th. So at this time, about 18 months ago, one of our retail partners over here in Grand Rapids, Jack Mercer from Logan's Alley, came over to us and said, I want to do a tap takeover. And he had this great idea to do an event called M420. Yes, 420, alliteration, M4, rolls off the tongue. So we have a series of
Off the tongue, huh?
pretty big, our biggest tap takeovers of the year are happening tomorrow. So we have one at Logan's Alley in Grand Rapids, and there's one at Clubhouse BFD over in Rochester Hills. So our entire Metro 820 staff is going to Rochester Hills in my stead. My wife and I and the kids are over here in Grand Rapids for the one here to support our West Michigan staff. So that's why I'm not there. And so tomorrow at those two locations, there'll be 20 different beers from 20 different breweries in our portfolio. Some of those beers include beers from Jester King, beers from Cantillon on draft, beers from Tilquin on draft, and then all of our Michigan partners that we represent in their respective markets. So you'll have, at both locations, you'll have Ascension, City Build, Drafting Table, Brew Detroit, Batch Brewing Company, River's Edge, everyone that we represent in both markets will be on tap. So 20 different beers from 20 different breweries, and a lot of them are hand-picked beers that you'll never see anywhere else. Like River's Edge, for example, did a Grand Cru version of their upcoming Dirty Frank barrel variant that'll be available at both locations. Mitch from Speciation did a beer called Undank Dank, which is a pineapple sour that's been dry hopped. And then Essential had their Faux 20 on. City Build had Danky McDankerton. So a lot of really, really fun beers that'll be on tap at both locations. So if you get a chance, at Logan's goes on at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And over at Rochester Hill Clubhouse BFD, whenever they open up, I think it's like 10 or 11, all the beers will be on tap. And then M4 staff and brewery staff will be on hand pretty much at both locations starting about 12:30 or 1 o'clock to hang out with you guys and answer any questions. So get some Cantillon on draft, get some Tilquin on draft, get some Jester King on draft when you get a chance, because it doesn't come around very often. So that's my shameless 4-minute plug. So I apologize.
Well, all 0 of our listeners heard you, so we appreciate you calling in. Obviously, we've talked before. I'm sure we'll have you in studio one point, so you can be here live in the flesh, chatting beer with us. So once again, thank you, Mike from M4.
Jenny.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mike.
guys. Jenny and Kyle, behave yourselves. I'll talk to you guys later.
Brian, you're free to do whatever you want.
Thanks, guys. Oh, Brian's there too.
Yeah, Brian Shelby is also here.
I invited myself.
Hey, GBS.
Yep.
Good to see you, GBS. Sorry, I'm not there. Talking about it.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Mike.
See you, brother.
Take care.
All
What a
right.
start to the show.
And that was Mike Turriff from M4. So let's introduce the rest of the guests in studio. We'll start off with the person who is not here that is here.
Yeah, I have free reign to do what I want. Yeah.
Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, so I'm Brian Shelby, and I am the Southern Oakland County rep. I rep Ferndale, Berkeley, Royal Oak, Madison Heights, Hazel Park, and a little bit of Southfield.
All right. And next to you?
I am Jenny Austin. I work for M4 Distribution, and I have Detroit, Grosse Pointe, and yeah, those are my two cities I have.
I think that's it.
And next to you?
Hi, I'm Kyle Rehder. I work for Upland Brewing Company, and I have basically the northern third of Indiana and now Michigan as of this year.
So you're a distro rep for...
I'm a brewery rep. So,
Brewery rep.
yeah, or as they so politely put it, a territory manager. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a way
the kind of-
sexier thing to say.
That's the kind of title. So I used to work for a bank. It was actually in Indiana, too. I'll call
yeah?
it Flagstar Bank.
Okay.
Convenience
yeah.
you can count on. And I used to have the position of retail banking supervisor, which was the fancy name for assistant branch manager.
Bank teller.
Assistant
Wait,
to the branch
yeah,
Not
manager.
Yeah.
assistant to assistant.
Did you have an assistant to your assistant?
I did not
To
have
the
an
br-
assistant
Oh,
to
that's
my
too bad.
assistant.
That's
But
too
yeah,
bad.
that was
What a
that's
bummer.
that's the funny thing. Like you have such a weird, not a weird name, like a hyped up name.
Yeah.
That makes you really not what you are. Like I wouldn't say a weird name because there are a lot of brewers that'd be like, oh, Brewery Ninja.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, whatever, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have like a territory account executive, aka
No, that's
you're
actually-
the salesperson.
That's
of
actually
that
my manager. Her name's Iris. She's the account executive.
Actually, speaking of which, I think my favorite one, it was the one that you didn't even get. Miranda Johnson from B Nectar is the director of Buzz.
Yes.
So
So my official sales title, at least on my business cards, is I'm the chief hops hustler for M4 CIC.
do you call it C2H or CH2?
No, I make sure that they know that I'm the chief hops hustler.
So do you not sell any sort
Wow.
of stouts or porters?
There's still hops and stouts and porters.
How about
That is true.
Gruits?
Oh no, we don't sell Gruits. No.
Why not?
Because there's no hops.
But I thought it was.
It's Easter, man. You gotta have hops.
I thought it was Groot.
I
Just,
think
I
yeah,
am
there
Groot.
not a lot of breweries are getting into the Gruits. At least not that.
There's a handful that
There's-
make them every
yeah,
once in a
there-
while.
Mount Pleasant Brewing. I
Yeah,
think, is
if
one
you're
that
not
was-
Mount Pleasant,
yeah.
everyone
Pleasant.
may have like out of every 5 breweries, there's one that's made one.
What's funny is that I attended Central Michigan University Fire Up Chips.
Holla at your boys.
Yeah, and I used to spend lots of time at Mountain Town / Mount Pleasant Brewing
Absolutely.
and Peach Gruit. I always actually enjoyed, but I used to always drink Hobo's Breath. I think was what it was called.
Wow.
Which was I think an Imperial Brown. Once again, can't go wrong with a brown.
Nope.
So
Nope.
What can Brown do
well,
for you?
speaking of can't go wrong with a brown, like what's your go-to beer when you're drinking at home or going to a bar or something? Like, what's that beer that you just gravitate towards? It's got to be something that's common. It can't be something that's like, oh, I've got one bottle of it sitting in my.
I don't want to suggest that there's going to be. I'm not going to suggest that there's going to be a theme amongst at least the M4 CIC reps, but very light lagers and pilsners generally is what I drink. I will say that I'm not embarrassed that I do enjoy the Miller High Life every once in a while.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with
But
that.
from the craft beer perspective, Drafting Table Pro Pills. At one of the local markets I go to, Western Market in Ferndale, I have a nice stack of Champagne Velvet 12 packs. That if I can do a shameless plug that I have no problem buying quite often. Also, you can find them at Holiday Market. Thanks, Ashley.
Ashley
Our
definitely is.
one listener. Hi, Ashley.
Yeah.
We have Ashley in chat. We have Michael Shadoin.
Oh yeah, Shadow. He's
Shadow.
Yeah, so he's one of our warehouse guys for M4 CIC.
Aw.
He's quite a valuable member.
He
of the
says
team.
hello.
Yeah.
Shane Hudson yelled over at Mike, so he's a new Old Nation rep. We know.
Yeah, Shane
Oh,
Hudson. Yeah.
yes.
John Johnson says shout out from Drafting Table. Heather O'Brien is saying Groot is from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Gruit is beer.
Oh, that's where I went wrong. Okay, cool.
I think a lot of people went with Groot type puns when they made Groot during the last
definitely.
handful of years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, you gotta
Gruit.
gotta play into it for sure.
But what if they just stopped making funny names and made them good?
Oh, wow.
Get that away from him.
So-
Sick burn, man. Sick
Isn't
burn.
this a craft beer podcast? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, it's not about good beer. It's about funny names. That's all it is. And catchy labels.
I
Complex
mean,
as
funny
hell.
funny names will tend to just pull you to a beer, even if you know you don't like the beer.
Oh, yeah.
We always have that one case in point with us going to
Derek, Once You Goes a Black.
Once You Goes a Black, and I saw that and I just said, I don't like Gozas, but
Here's my token.
yeah,
There's 2 puns on that one.
I know that was a good one. That was a good one.
Oh, my God.
Goes a black.
I don't remember how many
Wait,
black people were
was
there
it a
that
black
day.
Goza then?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
That's interesting.
All right. Well, we have a problem here.
Wow.
We have a lot of beer on the table, but I
Yeah.
have none in front of me. So why don't you crack open a beer you brought?
Cool. So I'm going to start with the lightest beer that I have right
Nonsense.
now. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, okay, I'll start with the biggest, boldest, baddest.
bust your balls.
No, I'm going to start with the lightest beer that we have. It is actually one of my personal favorites as well, because like Brian, I really tend to just enjoy a beer that I can hammer on and not get totally wasted after 2 of them. So this is Champagne Velvet. Brand wide, it is Upland's 3rd best-selling brand. In my personal territory alone, it has achieved the #1 status, which I'm super proud of because, like I said, it's one of my favorites. So it is a pre-Prohibition Pilsner that originated in 1902 out of Turriff Brewing Company in Indiana from the mind of a German immigrant. Technically speaking, I think it was a son of a German immigrant, but we're splitting hairs there.
It's like school. Take one and pass it down.
Exactly, yeah. Take one down, pass
Did
it
you
around.
bring it out for the entire class?
I do have another one if need be.
I mean, I got a cooler full of them in my car for samples, so
yeah, there we go.
we'll figure it out.
So this
Someone's
is
walking home.
this is a pre-prohibition pilsner, so to speak. We are actually using the brewer's handwritten notes for this. It is very dry. It is very crisp.
Yes.
There is a Midwest corn that goes in the mash, keeps the flavor really light, but gives us enough fermentable sugars that we're actually achieving 5.5% on this. So in spite of its light super drinkability, there is a little bit of punch to it.
So it is.
This should be a
really-
Champagne Velvet Elvis because this is
Actually, fun story.
oh wow.
That apparently was his favorite beer.
Yeah.
Velvet Elvis.
No, the Champagne Velvet. That was
Stop it.
Elvis's one of his favorite
Yeah.
beers.
Allegedly, he didn't drink beer often, but apparently he gravitated to
Yeah.
Champagne Velvet. Like, I guess it had a large, was it the distribution imprint in
Yeah.
Tennessee?
It
in
was
Kentucky.
It was one of the top pre-prohibition brands. In fact, it is older than Miller High Life, so it is the original champagne beer, which a lot of people
Shout out
argue-
to Miller Coors if they're
Yeah.
looking for any sort of.
Indiana Bev, I love you guys. You're the best distributors ever, but it's older. Anyways, so yeah, but it does have this really cool storied history and past. And really our main goal with it, and I mean, this is not exactly a visual medium, but if you look at the can...
There's a camera right here.
Oh, hey, look at
Hey! Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
You're good. You're
okay,
good.
cool. So if you
Here, you
look
know
at the
what,
can...
I'll manage it.
Cool, yeah. The can and the design is based off a can from the past, somewhere around the 1930s. And we're really just trying to keep this as a historic brand. So if you look at our other brands, like Pedal to the Kettle, like our brand tag is directly in front of it and on it.
Guess I'm doing this all day.
Yeah, pretty much. Thank
Do
you.
the Wayne's World like,
All right, Vanna White. Here we go.
Yeah.
So literally, we're trying to push this as a historic brand and keep it as historically accurate as possible.
You know what would fuck people up a lot?
Talk to me.
That was rather blunt there, man.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Go back to the old Pop Tops.
Oh no, actually, this is actually really really awesome because I keep
Like
showing.
we have the wide mouth can that was invented by Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Go back to the small itsy bitsy.
I'm saying Cyclone tops all
Yeah.
day long because that's where we're kind of
But
stealing
see-
our branding.
Can we?
image
Can
in.
we
You might
if you could just flash that to the
Yeah.
You might accidentally
Hold on,
pour
I'm not-
motor oil out of
it's
that
a little
thing.
hard because
Oh no, it's an old school
camera
Cyclone.
camera
yeah.
to phone.
I'm thinking like tiny, like
the actual
the tiny, like the Billy beer, the little tiny
kicked
ones.
off my flip flop, stepped on a pop top style.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Like I think.
Sorry, do you not know that song? Do you not know that song?
I think the only place you would get those cans is like V8, like the original V8.
V8.
They're the only ones who don't have like the wide mouth.
Yeah, no, you got
go go.
Yeah,
you pull it off. Yeah.
I think it'd probably be difficult to find somebody who's like ready to chug, like Clamato
V8.
juice. Like need that wide mouth to get as much.
I'll be honest. You've clearly never seen Intervention with the alcoholics on. I saw a lady. I saw a lady on the Intervention show. She was passed out drinking like half gallons of mouthwash.
Oh yeah.
I work in beer, so I try to avoid talk about alcoholism as much as I can. The last thing I need is self-reflection. So.
To be honest, though, all you got to do is just call it the non-chuggable beer, and then everyone will
That
chug
is
it.
very true. Yeah. Okay. Let me see
Yeah,
if I can
it's a
shotgun
challenge.
this.
Which they kind of do the opposite because I mean, when you go visit Upland, what we found out was they have the 16-ounce cans of Champagne Velvet as well, and
Same exact look, just
yeah.
stretched.
and they do shotgun Fridays.
They do shotgun fries.
Yeah.
Shotgun,
Shaking.
which is after you've had way too much beer.
And you think you can still trust the
Shotgun
fart.
Fridays, where they, I mean, it is what it is. They take all the brewery staff out.
It actually used to be Modelo.
Yeah.
So,
Gnarly.
but then it became free time, and then once the Champagne Velvet really started hitting, now it's every Friday. The entire whoever is in the production facility, we all circle up, and I've been a part of a couple of them. I must admit, because I feel lucky to do that. In the Northern Territory, I don't make it down to actually being at the brewery very often, which is a little rough.
And where is the brewery?
Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay, so IU.
21 years old. Yeah, stumble distance from campus, literally.
So we've had a lot of guests that are in a college town. How do you guys work with students? Are you guys because I don't know your price point per
they like to
pint is.
drink, and
Well,
we like to get.
It's a no-brainer.
But craft beer is notoriously expensive.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap hobby.
Yeah.
So you can get a 30-pack of Busch Light for $15.99, or you can
Kirkland
drink
brand.
5 beer. You could drink 3 beers from Upland for the same price. So
We actually we're very proud to maintain a price point that is a little bit more accessible to the everyman. I mean, typically around Indiana, you'll see it on the shelf for anywhere from $8.99 to $10.99, which, as far as craft beer goes, per 6-pack is really not that bad. And with Champagne Velvet, the 12-packs that came out, you'll see that anywhere from $12.99, which is the really tight, low margin end, up to about $15.99. We try and keep it a little less than that, but places charge what they want to.
people gotta make money.
Yeah, exactly. But I know in my territory, for the most part, you'll see about $13.99 to $14.99 on the shelf. So we're trying to, as much as we can allow ourselves to, really kind of stretch ourselves and try and get craft beer into the mouths of people that might be interested in it. It's hard. It's not always ideal, and everyone knows, you don't open up a brewery to make millions of dollars. But we're just trying to kind of make it accessible. That's really what we're doing. So.
And how many states are you in? How far have you guys reached?
So that's kind of a tricky question because we have our clean beer side where we're doing, Champagne Velvet and also our kettle sours, but we also have our sour beer side. It's a much smaller program. We're doing somewhere around 1,600 barrels in our sour program and about 16,000 in our clean beer program.
Wow.
Yeah, so
There's a rather big gap between the two.
yeah, and the most interesting part of that is probably countrywide, people know Upland Brewing Company as a sour brewing facility, but that's like 1%.
Like the
of what
Upland
we do.
Sours
Yeah.
is a phrase that people will use
Oh,
up here
yeah.
in Michigan for when you guys distro the sours.
100%. Well, and Michigan, to be very honest, started off as a sours-only territory. Sours are something that not a lot of breweries are doing, or not a lot of breweries, to be very frank, are doing super well, especially when it comes to the wood-aged program stuff. And so we launched that to kind of begin with in outside markets to set ourselves apart. And then from there, we try and find what will work well. Like launching Dragonfly IPA, which is our flagship. It's the #1 Indiana brewed IPA. Launching that in Michigan is not going to have the same impact as launching Champagne Velvet. I mean, in my territory alone of North Indiana, battling with Bell's Two Hearted is an everyday thing. It's like I might as well hit my head against a brick wall. It is very, very difficult. in spite of the fact that that is the number one Indiana brewed IPA. So putting that up here makes no sense. So it's all about choosing that territory and launching with integrity and trying to make sure that that is the beer that fits there. So
does Indiana, I mean, now that you've cracked into Michigan, you've kind of seen how provincial and hyperlocal Michigan is.
yeah.
Is Indiana similar to Indiana only, Indiana beer, Indiana? Or do you feel like Michigan's a lot more Michigan only, Michigan beer, Michigan forever kind of thing?
You know, when I first moved to Indiana, I really felt that Indiana was very prideful and Indiana forward. But I think that there is not quite as much of that as I really initially thought. You know, I moved from Chicago, where Chicago is a melting pot. There's a little bit of everything everywhere. And yeah, Chicagoans are super like, yeah, Chicago first. But if there's a beer that kicks ass, quite frankly, they're going to drink it. And I'm starting to see more and more and more of that in Indiana. I mean, talking about my beer alone, people are like, yeah, cool, you guys have been around for 21 years, but like, what's new? It's like, what? But okay.
And doesn't that seem just like insulting? Like, you know, what's new? Like,
it does.
drink good beer.
Yeah,
How many
right?
how many times like nobody goes to like a lot of restaurants? It's like, oh, what's new on the menu? No, you.
Oh,
eat
you'd be
what
surprised.
Well,
Depends on which restaurant you go
Even
to.
in the industry, if you're not going to like fine dining where the menu is ever changing, where 98% I would say of menus are going to stay the same minus the occasional one or two changes for whatever reason or another. So people aren't going to the local bar, their local diner or anything like that. And the most you might see is what's the new pie or what's the new dessert because that's really the only thing you can
or the
consistently
hottest
change.
new entree or
Well, not even necessarily that. Like, you know, desserts are really the only thing that ever has like a never-ending rotation, just because of seasonal vegetables, seasonal fruits.
This actually is a great segue because we have
Segue.
found kind of fun ways to introduce change without honestly constantly hitting the change button. So the next beer that I'll actually open right now is called Pedal to the Kettle. It's part of our Tart series. We initially launched this beer specifically, Pedal to the Kettle, 3 years ago as kind of an attempt to see what would happen in the market with a kettled sour. And it did really, really well. It actually did better than we anticipated. And so we kind of ran with it. And then next year we started with what we affectionately refer to as the Tart series. It's 3 beers that rotate every 4 months. But they all have this kind of similar feel of a slightly tart, but very well-balanced fruited sour. And we try not to call them sours because we have our wood-aged sour program, and that's a whole beast. So instead, we call them tarts, and that's why we call it the Tart series. So this is, it changes in its own category, so to speak. We also have in Indiana and a couple other smaller territories, we have our seasonal rotators that rotate, you know, through the seasons to make sense with what season is going on. And then the last rotating category is our Side Trail series. And that is the most limited series. It's all based upon brewer innovation. Before, probably a couple of years ago now, probably when I was hired actually, is when things kind of changed. They used to just let it kind of be open and whatever wanted to happen happened, and whatever the brewers wanted to brew, they would brew, and they would kind of play around. And we decided to kind of streamline that and make it a little bit more, I don't want to say rigid, but defined.
Sure.
So like this year, we're playing on the idea of what actually is a hazy beer. I know that everyone and their mother is doing a hazy beer, but we're trying to kind of stretch the definition of that because right now everyone and their mother is playing on that New England style, what is the fruitiest, most tropical, stupid, hazy juice bomb that we can get. But like our next Side Trail series is going to play on the idea of a super piney West Coast style feel, but it's only 11 IBUs. So you're getting this weird dichotomy between West Coast feel without all that bitter bite.
So like the Nebraska IPA?
Can that please be a thing? Like, beer advocate,
somewhere
are
in
you
the
listening?
middle?
It's actually called the Nebraska Common. No, it's not.
I mean,
No, it's
No, they call it the Lincoln.
I mean that still would be an any IPA.
Oh, that's why
that
I
was.
Well,
So
Annie, I get it. Yeah.
this is where it's
this is where we're going
Yeah.
to take a break.
I caused
Only
those
so
things.
we've reached pun tolerance for the
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So would you maybe make like a hazy stout or a hazy porter just
no.
to fuck up the hazy series.
But how can you make something hazy if you can't,
can't
see through it
see
to
it.
begin with? Yeah.
But you can have like that, like when you pour a Guinness True and it's got that those all that.
No, that's the sparkly ones that you're talking about. We're not ever going to do a sparkly beer.
No.
No glitter beers, no sparkles.
And we are going to be right back. Better on Draft Podcast.
Someone's been writing in my dream journal. I've just been floating like a sea turtle. 'Cause you poison the soil like ancient orange. Yeah, you poison the soil. Now life feels boring, and you won't see me again. I am disappearing, friend. You won't see me again. I am someone's been writing in my dream journal. I've just been floating like a sea turtle. 'Cause you poison the soil like ancient orange. Yeah, you poison the soil. Now life is boring.
And we are live, episode number 174, Better on Draft Podcast. We started the show with Mike Turriff calling in, still in studio. We have M4 as well as Upland Brewing. So before we went on break, you did pour the pedal to the kettle.
That is correct.
And that is, again,
It is a kettled sour with Yeah, it's a kettled sour with strawberry puree, dried rose, and hibiscus petals.
I just don't believe you, sir.
Wait, what? Why not?
It tastes like Kool-Aid.
I mean,
If you didn't tell me that there was alcohol in
Who
there,
the
I would think.
fuck
Yeah.
is making your Kool-Aid?
yeah,
No, here's the problem. Here's the difference between you and me. That tastes
just
like
one.
That's what I appreciate about you.
Okay, how about the differences relating to Kool-Aid? Kool-Aid in my house didn't include that much sugar, or it was the prepackaged just add water Kool-Aid that wasn't super sugary. That's a not enough sugar Kool-Aid.
So you had
That's
you're
not
an
even-
off-brand, like off-brand Kool-Aids.
Yeah, like
Like Weiler's?
It's Kool-Aid, but with a C from Kmart.
Country time.
yeah, Clutch Time, whatever Kroger brand Kool-Aid was, like Everfresh. Kroger
brand
That's actually a
Kool-Aid.
brand. But it's if you don't put enough sugar in Kool-Aid, it tastes a bit sour, just like that. That literally reminds me of coming home from baseball practice, drinking the Kool-Aid, being, "Mom, you fucked up again. There's not enough sugar in
the
this
difference is that this is 6% ABV. yeah,
bitch." Or was my mom getting me drunk at like 8 years old? Also,
that could probably also
Maybe it was-
explain some things.
I was going to say, yeah, that explains a lot.
maybe it had enough sugar. It was just the schnapps in there
That could be.
got it to
That could
bitterness.
be.
Trying to get you to go to sleep after baseball practice.
There you go.
Matt, what position did you play at baseball when
I'm
you
a
were
shortstop.
kid? You were a shortstop.
And a pitcher.
Okay.
I'm on the team.
For some reason, it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't know why.
So this is actually like I think I mentioned prior. This is part of a 3-part series of rotating beers.
All of those parts.
You would drink all those
I
parts?
will be drinking
Oh
all
yeah,
those
that,
parts.
Well, actually, in May, the next part will be up here. That is the next release. We brewed this one originally. It's called Two of Tarts. We brewed Two of Tarts originally as part of the Side Trail series. It was brewer innovation. There was a restaurant group in Chicago that picked it up for all their restaurants. And then when we decided to do this tart series thing, we brought it back. It's passion fruit and mango with a little bit of sea salt and coriander, as it is a gosa. I typically don't mention the coriander because that's kind of a touchy thing, and really it doesn't make a huge appearance in this beer. It's mainly for style. But
Earthiness probably
for what?
brings a little bit of earthiness to it. Body.
I mean, the passion fruit is pretty much forefront, and that kind of masks a lot of things. The mango, I thought was going to play a bigger part, but when I drank it for the first time, it really added this almost creaminess to it.
Speaking of mango, we just drank the Baffin Mango IPA. I saw. Did you cut it with water? Were you not a fan?
No, she poured the Chica.
I combined it with the
Chicha.
Chicha, that's right.
Chicha Time.
Oh no,
Yes.
it wasn't to take away from that. I just thought it would be really nice to put the two together, give some life. It's good.
So, anyways,
Got a little.
I'm just kind of like mango on the ground.
Wow.
So what's the third? What's the third?
The third one was one that we did for the first time ever last year. It was called Modern Tart, and it is an apricot puree with just a touch of lactose sugar and a little bit of dry hop from Citra and oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. This is what happens. No,
Centennial.
Maybe we should. I was gonna say-
Mosaic. Oh my
Mosaic.
gosh, I kept wanting to say Marengo hops, and I knew that wasn't right.
I was going to say maybe we should
Yeah,
call
exactly.
someone that works at Upland.
It's funny.
Fred?
You,
We'll get
you
Fred
talk
on the
about
phone.
you talk about beers so much, and you say it so many times that you just take it for granted. And then one day you go to say the word, and it's not in your brain for some reason.
It's like when
weird.
you say a word so many times that you've lost
It-
the meaning.
yeah,
of the
it
word.
loses
Like,
meaning.
The word quarter to me
Yeah.
doesn't like it's just like a sound that comes out of your
gone,
mouth
right?
that
Yeah.
means nothing, and it just sounds funny.
Oh, at a
So-
beer fest, by the end of the beer fest, it's like, it's a beer with some beer things. I can't.
It's free the sign.
Literally, it's
Water hops.
We did have
Yeah.
someone in chat respond to the Kool-Aid discussion that says Natter Days are now Kool-Aid.
No,
Oh my god,
that's not enough
Yes.
vodka
That
in
makes
there.
Shout out to Natter Days' life.
That's almost enough
I see
sugar.
you.
almost.
That's almost.
Natter
It's
Days are for
still-
the boys. Have you guys had the Natter Days yet?
I have yet to, although I did buy some from a friend because they couldn't find it in Fort Wayne, so I had to source it for them.
I think if I was caught on film drinking a Natter Days, that
We would
Mike,
be fired.
Yeah, we would.
Yeah.
Mike would probably call us and let us. No, he wouldn't really do that, but
You guys are
he'd
family.
at least give us some sort of warning.
Damn.
So Matt, during the break,
detention.
I want you to go to the store, buy some Natter Days. I just want to test this theory.
Yes.
So we're all gonna chug a Natter Days.
It doesn't
Chug
matter.
Natter Days.
Nobody's watching. Duh.
See, yeah, we can do that.
Oh my God. The callback of all
You know what?
callbacks, yeah.
If there weren't 7 of us, do you know how disappointing it is to have 7 of us? Because we can't have a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I'm keto,
I mean, I could
so,
pass.
you know.
Or you can
yeah.
film
Yeah,
it?
the
can
last
just
beer
skip
that
you
he
over.
should be drinking is Natter Days. Talk about making Kool-Aid right. Like that is just literally like too much sugar.
So we asked
boy.
one of you guys about the your go-to beer. Why don't we go to Jenny and
Yeah.
continue that conversation real quick?
she brought
What's
Oh,
four of
man. Yeah, I mean, I think that through and through, the staff beer of M4 is Champagne Velvet. I told Kyle's story earlier that at Nucleate, that's coming up in June again this year, which is going to be great. But we had to shotgun a beer as a staff. And I mean, I'm a 30-year-old woman. I haven't shotgun a beer in like a solid 10 years. But I was like playing it like, oh, I can totally do this. It's going to be
Yeah,
great.
I know I'm doing the math too. Like
Yeah.
underage shotgunning is not something to joke about.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry for all the underage people.
I don't
Well,
know what
no,
they did in
she-
Massachusetts, but in Michigan.
I was gonna say. I mean, Canada's a couple miles away.
That's
so.
true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, all the accurate things. So and Mike handed me this 16 ounce of Champagne Velvet. He's like, yeah, we're gonna totally. So I was like, oh, I totally have this. And I'm grabbing it. I'm just like, yeah. And I stabbed my key into it, and I totally shot Champagne Velvet all over Mike's face.
How long had you been with the company?
About 2 weeks.
yeah.
So yeah, that
Shout
was,
out to Chris Betts from Transient for being inhuman at shotgunning. By the way,
yeah.
that man is, I think, probably an alien. And that is one of the things I use for proof.
He's a face hugger when
Yeah.
it comes to champagne.
Well, you
Good
guys
shotgun.
obviously that's more of a one-time thing. Like hey, let's do it as a group. It'll be fun. It'll be funny.
Not at Upland.
Not at Upland.
Every
Oh
Friday.
no.
We do
Every
it.
Friday.
At
It's-
Sour Funk
yeah.
Fest, we had a 50. I missed it because I got stuck at my
50-person
table.
shotgun, yeah.
But yeah, it was a 50-person, 16-ounce champagne velvet shotgun circle. Of yeah.
It's a common
What does
thing.
that even look like?
It looks like a lot of people trying to shotgun 16 ounces of
A
beer.
lot of
favorite.
old dudes just chugging beers, man.
doing
That's
their
what it
best.
looks
Gosh.
like.
That you don't know how many people are bad at shotgunning
Until you get
you're-
50 people. Yeah.
because trying to navigate the constant sprays because people don't know how to tip their beer when they're like.
Oh my
pouring it.
god, I don't know which way to go.
there-
Oh god, there's beer flying.
Is
all
there
over
like
the place.
shame bestowed on the last person to finish, or
There should be. I think.
yeah.
I don't know.
We try to be a little bit more fair about it and be like, oh, you'll do better next time, buddy.
fuck you, Jerry, you're fired.
We, the very first time I ever encountered it was one of my first visits down at the brewery. And I had been already working up in the northern territory of Indiana, and I had to come down for something. And it was a Friday, and they're like, hey, you coming in for this, the shotgun? I was like, what? What are we talking about? And that's when they handed me a Modelo. That was before we were doing Champagne Velvet on the scale we're doing it now. And I was like, let's do this. And I was so confused. I was like, this is a normal thing that we do. Oh, yeah.
Did they at least let you squeeze a lime into the hole?
No.
You put a lime in your mouth and
Oh,
you lick
it's like
the salt.
tequila. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those guys, they just lick their arms because they've been working their ass off. Everything is pretty much manual down there. Everyone packs the cases, ships it's all
not where they got the salt
very,
and
very
parts, is it?
much manual labor down there.
So
There's some badasses.
for me, I will fully admit I used to party week in, week out over at Michigan State, Central, U of M.
Wayne State.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say Central again?
Oh yeah.
Fire up chips.
Fire up, cheers.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times. What's the name of the field house?
Finch.
Finch,
Yeah.
the Finch Field House, just drinking in the parking lot, doing absolutely nothing with friends because nobody cares.
Well,
I don't remember doing. Okay, well, I guess
I've
you
got
were
your
here.
experience.
well, we there was the parking lot tailgates. Where
These
the
weren't
entire
tailgates.
student
This
body-
was like 3 or 4 in the morning when parties were done, and we wanted a place to drink and not be bothered. So we went to.
yeah.
The
So you go to the middle of
Drinking in the
campus
parking-
where everything gets bothered. Okay.
Yeah,
Mind you, there's cornfields 100 feet away. That nobody.
You
yeah.
only have to go three and a half minutes down
There's
the road.
literally
and there's
train tracks 100 feet from where you are.
No, dude, I get it because outside of a restaurant I worked at downtown Chicago, we used to drink at what we affectionately called the BS Lounge. It was a bus stop just outside of the restaurant. And we would get off at ridiculous hours at night, and we would just go to the 7-Eleven right there and buy usually a 12-pack of whatever. And there
Ham?
was...
Don't you disparage
You know,
hams.
No,
damn it.
there were
Land of the
things-
Sky Blue Waters. That's
there
my
were
stuff.
there were
See?
things. We would pass around things and drink beers and usually take shots of whatever was pilfered. And the cops would, for the most part, leave us alone because they all knew us for
Because you're not puking or doing,
Yeah.
Was
you're
this in
not
Chicago?
causing
Yeah,
trouble, so
exactly.
nobody
Is
cares.
this in Chicago? You said?
Yeah, this was in Chicago.
I think if the Chicago
The BS
police
Lounge.
tried to bust up everybody drinking in bus stops, they wouldn't have any time to do
They would have
anything
no
else.
time. They would literally have no
Well,
time.
I mean,
yeah,
there is
yeah.
a war being waged on the south side of that city.
So
isn't there?
A little bit.
going back to what I was saying real quick,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
because
so the
we'll,
side
we'll,
trail.
we'll crack
Yeah.
that in a second. Let me
Oh, okay, cool.
finish my story before we fully get off track.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I
Because we were
interrupted
talking about shotgunning,
Yeah.
which
Right.
is where we got to me.
Speaking of shotgun, Jenny's opening this extra dry, which is one of her go-to beers, right?
This is my favorite beer
Yeah.
of all time.
you. I had one.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about it.
So as a 32-year-old man, it took me 30 years before I ever shotgunned one beer.
I'm proud of you, man.
Oh, hey,
And
that's great.
I hated it.
Jenny,
It's
too.
awful. I hate it.
It was
How am I
probably
supposed to enjoy it if
it
it's
was
being shot
probably
down my throat like
so
that?
that wasn't
That's
the
what she
worst
said.
part. It was the decision of the beer I chose to shotgun.
Oh, did you
That
do like
was
a KBS or something like that?
No, I probably would have been easier to do a KBS.
Oh, no.
I got the
Best ice.
Yeah, that's what I got. I did Griffin Claws. What's the session IPA?
Raggedy Ass?
No,
Norms?
Gateway.
Gateway.
The Gateway.
Yeah, that was really bad to shotgun. It just did not taste good.
It's very piney and carbonated.
Oofta.
Did you get
Yeah.
Did you get the IPA?
Oofta.
Yep,
I
got
got whatever she's got.
All right, so what did you
This
just
is
pour
extra
us?
dry. Everybody's got extra dry?
Yeah, so Stillwater Extra Dry.
From
As
Atlanta,
I was
right?
from, sorry?
Georgia?
No, this is from Baltimore.
Oh, I'm thinking
Maryland.
Sweetwater.
Yes, no, Stillwater. He's a phantom brewer, so he doesn't really actually have a brick and mortar facility. but it's Brian Strumke, one of the most talented brewers, I would say.
And a
our age.
legit EDM DJ.
That is true. But what I like about Extra Dry the most is kind of highlighting rice as opposed to being an adjunct that you find in a lot of macros. This is highlighting rice as its like beauty. So it's called a sake saison for a reason. I like it the most because my favorite Beer Advocate review was calling it a pretentious PBR. I said you're damn right it's a pretentious PBR, and I love it for that reason.
I could drink these all day long.
Yeah, it's 4.2%. I mean, it's just like super clean. It's just delicious.
I feel like this is what I would boil my hot dogs in.
Yeah, I 1,000%
I'm
will boil my
not
hot
that
dogs.
far off. I mean, it's just.
Do we have a similar taste profile for a change?
I think we do.
The
We
funny
do.
thing is, like, if you have a favorite Asian themed restaurant, there's a good chance that Jenny or I have probably made it in there with at least a few canned samples of that.
I mean,
It pairs so well with noodles, so well with sushi. Like,
Bluefin?
yeah, like,
Bluefin?
Working on it.
yeah.
Damn it.
Shout out to Adachi in Birmingham, by the way.
It's
Fuck
Arashi.
Adachi.
Shout out to Brian for
Isn't
giving
it
the most
Arashi?
shout outs during a
Arashi, yeah.
podcast in the first
They're
15
opening
minutes.
up another restaurant over in West Bloomfield
Yeah,
called
that's-
Zhao Jun.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a,
He
the
does one
indus-
too.
Yeah, this is the industry that I'm in. So Arashi, that was an interesting place to
Oh, yeah,
go
you
for
get to draw
sure.
these characters, don't you, then?
What's that?
They have characters instead of letters and stuff, so you...
No, because we do sell Chinese printers, but we don't sell anything in regards to Japanese characters and lettering. So the answer is no, we don't.
okay.
Capiletti in it.
So that's I still haven't had it yet. What did you say it
I'm
tasted like,
getting
Matt?
dry hot dog water. Like a hot dog water with a dry back finish.
Oh man, this is like the best hot dog water I've ever had. Then, because I'll drink this all day
Yeah.
long.
This
It's
is
kinda like
clean.
all
This
day.
is crisp.
Oh
Yeah,
my
so-
god, it's amazing.
I was gonna
it's
say,
a-
yeah, I would definitely drink this for.
It's a sake rice beer, but I'm pretty sure it was finished with sake yeast. So it still has like a dry finish.
Yeah, I'm about it.
So it
Are
was
you
brewed
sure this
before
isn't
brew
from
was cool.
Johnsonville?
No, but I guarantee you, if you boiled brats in
goodness.
this with some onion, it would be great.
Hebrew National is just really all about
don't-
it.
I don't disagree.
I was gonna say that's something for guest of the show Kevin DeVries to do because that's all he does is make
Yeah,
concoctions.
he
And
He will do that. He will definitely do that.
I feel like
That's
this, I don't know. I think this is like too bare bones plain. I think this needs something because I feel like I'm lacking, and maybe that's kind of the plan. Maybe this feels like peanuts at a bar. The flavor makes me want to go back and drink more because I want to get the taste out of my mouth, and then it's back right in my mouth.
I want to.
Isn't that the point of like those macro beers, like High Life and
Hams.
Bud and hams, and
Yeah.
the more you drink, the more you're like, I need to drink more to get this out of my mouth.
Well, see, I
I
don't
feel like I need to
drink
French press it with something.
hot fries.
Yeah.
There it is.
Let's bring that back.
There it
that
is.
was disgusting.
Hot, crispy fries.
Chili cheese Fritos.
Chili cheese Fritos. What is wrong with you?
I was gonna
Wow,
say
you have the
we're
long list or the short
No
list?
man, I'm
Apparently.
talking like edamame with a little bit of wasabi on this. Like that's what I would pair it with. That'd be ideal.
I don't
Fish
for
bones?
me. So let's bring up this conversation real quick because we're talking about beer and we're talking
Yeah.
about food pairings and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't eat and drink at the same time.
Really?
I'm actually the same. I'm the same
I
way.
don't like if
I'm the same
if
way.
I'm eating food or something like I just want a water
Oh.
and after either I'll have beer before but while I'm eating I'll drink water during
Yep.
and then have beer after
Yep.
but I can never drink while I eat.
I'm-
It's just a weird thing.
I'm the same way. Water, iced tea, soda has to be one of those three things. I don't know why. Can't drink beer.
I feel-
normally don't.
I think
My heart is breaking for you guys.
Yeah, I think
I'd rather just.
I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I don't,
I mean, I would
don't
rather-
know what Jenny's experience is in Detroit, but I can say like, for me at least, like with craft beer and how we're kind of not only eating into domestic beer, but we are eating a little bit into the wine industry, with some of the way that some of these beers behave, especially with sours and things like that.
Yeah.
Like you need pairing the beer with food accentuates both things.
100%.
So
Yeah.
if you pair a food like a nice fine dining dish
Yeah.
with a well-made craft beer that has the flavors built in to work with each other, I mean, it just makes for a more of an experience. I guess,
completely
for the
agree.
Oh, I don't disagree with
Yeah.
you. I'm just saying for me personally, like I just can't.
Just can't do
but
it.
have you ever had the experience of a server or a bartender saying, "What you're drinking right now You should
I've
totally
gone to
try it with
I've
this.
gone
thing.
to beer pairings for that specific
Really?
thing, and
and
it
still just
just doesn't seem right.
Oh,
It just
man.
doesn't seem right to me. It could
And
be
I even
weird.
think that beer pairings and beer dinners are kind of limited because usually when you have a beer dinner, it's only going to highlight one brewery. And it's not to say anything against breweries and beer dinners by any means, but I think that, you know, beer should be respected in the same way that wine and cocktails
100%.
and everything is viewed. And, you know, we're not looked at the same way.
I can't remember the brewery off the top of my head, but I remember the restaurant just because the food was amazing, and it was Maple Gray.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't like, you know, the food was bad, or, you know, I doubt the beer was bad with it too, but it was one of those just I just couldn't get into it. Like I couldn't see like the pairing thing, because I think when I drink, I want to drink, and when I eat, I want to eat. I don't want to.
Do you think it's an American culture that weird, like, when you drink to get drunk, and when you eat to enjoy the food?
I think that
and there's
is
no-
an American
yeah.
culture,
Oh, yeah,
but I
totally.
can't tell you the last time I drank to get drunk.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause I would say that really isn't even like, because I'm basically kind of the same way. Is
That's not saying that I
don't-
drank and got drunk, but drank to get drunk. Those are two very different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, I've kind of been that way myself. Is that sometimes it's not that I don't want to do the beer pairings; it's that I don't trust the beer pairings, just
Yeah.
internally, and it's just I want to eat, and then it's like even if they have something where they have it listed in the menu as far as what the beer pairings are. Or and I've never
Or
really
what
gotten
food items go with the
what
beer.
food exactly, and I've never really asked for those recommendations from those restaurants. Say, hey, you know, I want to have a bacon cheeseburger. What beer goes well with this?
Champagne
I'm
Velvet.
I'm kind of like, I honestly don't care what your opinion is, and I'm not going to ask for it. I'm just going to have my burger, and then I'm going to have whatever beer that I want to have that I know I will enjoy after the meal, because it'll be like one of my favorite things. Like if I'm at Hopcat and they've got Griffin Claw Flying Buffalo on tap, then you know, it may not go with whatever I eat. It may not go with fish and chips, but I'm drinking that shit after I eat that damn fish.
Oh, and I completely agree with you, and I think that's something that a lot of people like have a misconception about pairings and things like what goes best with the burger, and I'm just like, whatever you feel in your heart, like that's
There
like,
is that too.
You have that like that dish that you're so familiar with. If it's like a burger, like pizza, mac and cheese, I'm just like, drink whatever, like
Yeah.
the hell you want to
Makes
drink
you
with
happy.
it. But there are certain things that like people think beer is just like they commonly associate it with like a pilsner, and that's what people think beer is. And like everyone at this table knows that that's so wrong. And there's so many
Yeah.
different ways that you can go like the most like esoteric weird goos, and like it's gonna be flavors that no one even thought of. And it could be
Other
something
than
like super
Lemonheads.
simple. It could be something like a Stillwater extra dry saison.
Well,
and
know,
those are the
you know what
ones
she
that-
said is basically, you know, if you like it, it's a good beer, which
Exactly.
is
I was just going
the
there.
slogan of North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan. just
Let me
just
turn
south
around.
of North Center Road. There you go.
yeah.
If you like it, it's a good
There you
beer.
go.
Not a plug.
Of course,
Didn't see it
that
till now.
that great T-shirt is made by T-shirts.beer. So if you're looking to get,
Two in one.
hey, you know what? Let's do it to it. If you're looking for anything in regards to swag, apparel, anything like that, it doesn't have to be for a beer or brewery, but it can be for a bar, restaurant,
Or a beer box.
or a beer box. Yes, like Michigan Beer Box. You can go check them out, tshirts.beer, and of course, obviously, get your subscription. Michigan Beer Box, mibeerbox.com. Your monthly, whoa, that was
we're good.
close.
We're okay.
Your
We're
monthly swag options.
Just delivered today. actually.
Delivered today. What was this month's brewery?
We did Redline Brewing Company.
Redline Brewing. All right.
Up in Burton, Michigan. You get a free flight of beer if you're a subscriber. Also, our big surprise, shout out to Right Brain.
Right, Brian?
Everybody who's a subscriber gets a buy one, get one half off tour at Right Brain Brewery this summer.
That's a nice, that's
right
a nice little
Um,
brewery.
And
Right.
it involves free beer on the trip too. So it's like a
The
22
beer is included in the price. It's never
Yes.
free.
Yeah, well, yeah, no free lunch, but
What do we drink?
this is the
sorry to
first
interrupt.
principle.
First
by
principle,
Eastern
the
Market.
Pilsner from Eastern Market Brewing Company.
But yeah, so all of the subscribers to my beer box got a buy one get one half off coupon for the Right Brain Brewery tour, which involves a free flight of beer as well, when you purchase the brewery ticket. So not only will you go to Traverse City, but you'll walk to the brewery, get free beer, and have a good time. That's typically like $22. So I mean that's $11 right there, and you're only paying $30 for a beer box. So I mean, T-shirts, glassware. I mean that's a great value.
Now, in regards to Indiana, are there any crazy beer laws over there that you guys have to follow?
I mean, let's be real. We literally just
don't you
legalized Sunday sales.
Right. There was
Yeah.
wasn't there something where there was maybe it wasn't you guys in Indiana. I figured there was
Oh, it
one
probably
state
was.
where it was like you had to have the beers on the shelves. They couldn't be in coolers.
Oh yeah, in grocery
groceries,
beers
yes, in grocery-
cannot be cold.
Yeah.
Because they're
Bal-
afraid that people are going
Baltimore
to buy
has
them,
that.
and same with gas stations. You can't have cold beer, so they're afraid people are going to buy them and then drink them in their car while they're driving somewhere. Which, let's be real, people do that just to go to the grocery store. So it's not like
On their
it's not like
tractor-
it's going to change.
on their tractor number.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, literally.
What I think about is funny about Indiana too is like especially when we go to Indianapolis is that there's laws like that, but then also they have open package laws. You just walk down the
Yeah,
street.
downtown
India, yeah,
Indianapolis,
exactly.
And it's kind of weird because if you're so degenerate that you're gonna drink on the way home,
Oh yeah.
you probably don't care if it's warm or
If
Don't
it's warm or
give
cold,
a
you're gonna
shit, man.
crack a warm
You're-
beer. Like,
Oh yeah.
When I lived in Ohio, I would go to the corner store. It was a CVS or Rite Aid or one of those places, and I would get a 6-pack of 16-ounce beers, and the lady would put in a bag. She'd say, "Can I put in a bag for you?" And I would say no because then I can't drink them on the way home. So she would then put them in a bag and tie a knot around them because she took me seriously.
So
Midwestern value.
to tie in with that lovely Midwestern sentiment of tying your beer up so you can't get in. It's a plastic bag. You're gonna rip it. There is also the bar law where if you have a bar, it has to be at least cordoned off in some way, shape, or form. So a lot of bigger restaurants, you will literally see bar side and family dining side where there's no visual line to the bar. Or a smaller restaurant, they will literally either put up scansions or they'll have a straight up permanent rail. So you can just squeeze by whoever's sitting in the seat to get to the open seat that is obviously nowhere near where you want to sit. So you literally have to it's cut off. Kids cannot be behind there. It's 100% illegal. Yeah. On top of that, kids, doesn't matter how old you are, up into 21, you cannot step foot inside a liquor store.
Oh.
Even if you are with a parent, it is illegal. You are not allowed to do it. End of story. And it blows my mind. 'Cause
That was kind of a thing because whenever my dad would go and he'd buy his little pint of scotch.
Yep.
Like one, he would buy me whatever scratch offs. You know, I'd have a couple dollars to scratch offs, and then the liquor guy would always be like, "Oh, I got to see your ID," you know, to make sure
Yeah.
that I could turn in if I won something. And so he'd make me pass it to my dad. And
Yeah.
but yeah, that's just crazy because
I remember
I could
going to
just
the
think
liquor
of the
store all the
amount of
time.
yeah, I could just think
was
of the
a
amount of
thing.
times. Well, it's also a little bit different too, because at least in Michigan, like the liquor store is the local party store. It's the
Yeah.
place
It's
where you're
grocery
getting
store.
food.
I
You're
mean,
in
getting
Detroit, yeah,
it's a small little
grocery store.
It's a small little bodega. It's got a little bit of everything. Most of them have hot food, usually like chicken or pizza.
Can I tell you the first time I went to that Shell gas station? I believe that's your
Barrels and Vines.
Yeah, Barrels and Vines.
and
I always
Vines.
forget the
Oh,
name of it.
jeez.
Because
not a gas
the first
station.
time I went, I was
It's
just
a
like,
palace.
oh, like I walked in, I was like, what is this place? I can get gas, gummy bears, and some of the best wine and beer that the nation has to offer.
And blunt wrappers.
And blunt wrappers. Well, see, coming from Indiana, that's not going to be that's not going to be legalized for a while. So eventually, I'll just be coming up for that, but it's not normally on my
Geez,
mind.
just head over to whatchamacallit, to J1 in Utica.
Or Zatuna Liquor in Rochester Hills.
Well, they're not a gas
Oh,
station.
man.
But Zatuna Liquor over in Rochester. Have you been to Zatuna?
Shout out to Zatuna. Every time I go there, not only
How long were you there for? How long did Jack keep talking to you
the
for?
last time I was there, it was like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny when I got hired into the
minimal.
craft beer industry. It
minimal.
was actually with a company called Labicon, which was the precursor for 12% before Mike Turriff bought the rights to it. My first day of independent working by myself as a sales rep, my boss looked at me and because I was like, I gotta go to Zatuna's. He's like, okay, don't spend 2 hours there. Like that was the like that was like, what are you talking about? And I
Hashtag
went there and I
impossible.
spent 2 hours there. So I mean, Jack is.
What's great is that
He's
it's
a
a
cornerstone.
it's a true conversation too.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
he's
Oh, no.
yawning on about his cats
No.
or some bullshit.
No,
No.
No,
No.
it's
He
a
is
full on
legit.
conversation. He's so I always brag about his ability to like lock in information of any customer that comes in.
Oh, man.
I've seen people walk in while he's talking, continue the conversation with me, get the cigarette or the fifth or the pint or whatever that customer needs, put it on the table, and by the time the customer gets up with whatever else he needed in the store, he has everything there. I'm like, how do you remember
Well, and also that customer doesn't feel slighted somehow because
Yeah.
he never paid attention to her, really. But at the same point in time, everything she ever wanted or he ever wanted is right there. It's like I paid full attention to you, but I also kept this conversation going.
Jack is like having 5 text conversations going simultaneously, but in person.
Oh, the best.
So like he could have conversation with all 5 of us, our own different conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he
And it
would
would just
be able
work.
to keep going. Like one of the last times I was there, we were doing a little bit for Beer Box, and some guy showed up in a suit, and he's like, I need a fifth of Johnny Black Label, and they also grabbed me a pint of Johnny Black Label, and he's like, oh, you're gonna have a party, huh? And he's like, I'm actually headed to a funeral. But I mean, Jack's such a host. Like it, like rolled right off of his back. I mean, this dude's in a black suit, white shirt,
about that.
black tie. I'm like, God, text clues. But he's like, oh yeah, have a great day. And it was all the same thing. But it's that. Yeah.
Yes.
They have literally the best cigars in the world.
oh
yeah.
my god.
My favorite, like, if it's really funny because sometimes I'll be like discussing like beers that I would really like to try with some friends or something. Like the next day would be the day that I'd go see Zatuna about what beer he's going to order for me that week. And like I could have been talking about like before we signed Hoof Hearted, like I was talking about, man, I would really love to get a hold of Everybody Wants Some. And then literally the next day I walk in and Jack has cans of Everybody Wants Some and Dangy Kang.
The last time you took me there, we tried like
Doggy dog.
5 beers
Yeah.
before I left, and we hadn't even like had lunch or anything, and I was like, man, I'm feeling this is wonderful. We had like 17 double IPAs and like 12 hazies,
And before we get anyone in trouble, we will be right back. Better on Draft Podcast.
He goes so well, effort itself. Wake up, honey, socks on. Wake up, get up, body, shoes on. Get up, she goes up low, head goes pillow. I miss my sister, some blisters over them. I am in trouble, I'm seeing double. Where are my friends? Picking it up from the night before. I know you love me, but I love you more. He goes so well, effort itself. Wake up, honey, socks on. Wake up, get up, body, shoes on. Get up, she goes at low, it goes pillow.
And we are back, episode 174, Better on Draft Podcast. My name is Ken. I don't know how long it was silent, but of course, if you're listening to this on podcast, you didn't know either because you don't hear the music.
Sorry, live stream.
So, in regards to the live stream, we had Legume, which is part of the Ferndale set, one of our sponsors. We thank them so much for allowing us to
Like you
use
like
their
the food, right?
Legume.
Yeah, like
bees.
bees.
Peas and beans.
I'm hoping that's how you pronounce it. Obviously, they didn't tell us, but they allow us
Like
to use their music.
legume.
legume.
You know what? You can check them out at the Ferndale Set on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Great music, great independent music here in Michigan. They're located out in Ferndale, so check them out. With that in mind, we did pour. What did we pour? Do I have anything? I don't have anything. Therefore, nothing has been
This is
poured
like
yet.
this is like
We're about
becoming
to
a
crack
problem
that. We're
tonight.
about
Is
to
it-
crack
is it time to move to the side
sour.
trail?
I think it's time to move to some big beers. The big. That wasn't what I was expecting, but that's the sound bite from Side Trail. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's start it.
Is that the sour one? again?
No, I brought this bad boy for you guys because
For us.
Yeah, specifically for you guys.
And the zero
well, it's
listeners
not gonna be
online.
just-
Yeah,
Sure.
and,
It
and
probably
all of
won't
the
be
zero
distributed.
listeners online, all
We are a
nobody's,
struggling
all of you.
podcast.
So this guy is part of our Side Trail series. I know I mentioned that earlier with the Two of Tarts, how that originated as a Side Trail series, and that the Side Trail series is kind of about brewer innovation. We're focusing on hazy, and that is because Juiced in Time, which is our kind of kingpin hazy, was voted number 26 out of 324 blind taste tested IPAs in the nation last year. So
someone drank 326 IPAs?
I know. I want that job.
it was a blind
So-
taste testing panel, and they just rank things in order as to scores.
Give you guys a little bit of a heads up in regards to how those work. At least for the World Expo beer, I feel like that's how it kind of works elsewhere. What they'll do is if there is a large list of beers, they'll take a panel and they'll do a bunch of tables. Each panel will have different beers. So, for instance, if there was 70 beers, I would be at a table with 10. You'd be at 10. You'd be at 10. And we'd go through. We'd announce our favorite 2. And then those 2 would move on to another panel. And at that point, it'd kind of be like a breakdown of a breakdown of a
I
breakdown.
believe that's how this worked as well.
So that's the only way to do it because
Yeah.
after 40 IPAs, your palate is going to get smashed.
Yeah.
Even at tasters, it's still going to get completely annihilated. That
Even
you're
at
not going to
10
be
is
able.
nuts. Like,
Oh, yeah.
10,
yeah,
10
line
is
those
nuts,
up.
but they at the World Expo beer, they don't mess around with like palate cleansers. Like they have literal like volunteers that their volunteers serve everything so that the people can't leave their table unless they're going to the bathroom. They're bringing in chips, they're bringing in crackers, they're bringing in everything that'll help you change and like reset what your palate is. Water.
Bedpans, apparently.
You can use. I said you can go to the restroom.
You come with a catheter?
Oh,
it's the Stadium Mate. Thank you.
No, Stadium Buddy.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Stadium Buddy.
Keeps my calf warm.
So which one is this? This is the
So-
squeeze and thank you.
No, this is actually called Soundbite. Squeeze and
Soundbite.
Thank You we did last year. And
I don't see Soundbite on Untapped.
Soundbite is brand spanking new. It just hit the market.
Smells
For
great.
those who can't see the can, that's with an eye,
Yeah,
not a Y.
it is a hazy pale that we actually did
For us nerds.
for our local record store down in Bloomington, which is Landlock Music. We brewed this for Record Store Day, April 13th. I think there were huge events in Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, and Bloomington that I know of off the top of my head. There might have been something in southern Indiana as well. Forgive me, Sam, if I am.
That's where they
sliding you.
just did the Newport State Park, right?
Yeah.
Parks and Rec reference. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I was going to see where you were going to go with it.
Yeah,
People in Indiana don't watch Parks and Rec.
I used to, but it's been many years, sadly.
Well, I mean, yeah,
but
it got canceled like 5 years ago.
yeah, no. So this is this I brought as just kind of an idea to give you guys what our hazy program is about. It is very juicy and tropical and wonderful and super crushable.
But light
Yeah,
as a feather.
4.7.
It's like a hoppy pillow.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know how to. It's like it has all the gusto coming in of a hazy IPA, and then it just like walks back to your throat, says "Thanks for having me."
Yep.
And it goes
Yeah.
right down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a super like assertive dry finish. It's just
No.
kind of like
I don't even
like
have a
slinks
finish.
away. Yeah.
It does.
It's like it ghosts you.
Yeah.
It totally goes to you.
It's designed.
Like it shows up for the first time and then it goes to you.
It's designed to drink with really good music that
So I
happens to
didn't
have
even-
a
Why
little
would you
bit
want
of
to talk
spice
about-
to
So
it.
you should have called this Tinder date.
That is the best name
That is
for a beer.
right up.
Tinder
But
date.
how do you fit juicy into that?
It's right up Matt's alley.
How do you not?
Because most of them end
That's
up juicy,
what I
at least the
need to know.
first time.
That I'm not going to touch that.
Boy,
I mean, I just feel like Matt just found a beer that described his last 5 dates.
maybe 2. I don't know if I'd go 5. I can land the plane every now and again.
1 out of 10 ain't bad, right? So yeah, this is our side trail series. It really just lets the brewers kind of play within a theme at this point in time. And honestly, the first time I tasted this one, I was like, yeah, okay, I can hurt myself on this guy.
This is like a phantom hazy IPA.
It's good,
It
right?
is because I mean it's just maybe it's just the barbecue chips. I don't know, but it's just like there's
Well, it gotta be barbecue.
I was gonna say, does this not pair well with barbecue chips?
We
Of
designed it.
the Lay's
We
variety.
designed it to pair well with good music, but barbecue chips, I don't think should have a problem.
I mean there's
So hold on. He
Talk to
made
me.
he made a declaration.
Talk to me.
Good music.
Yeah. So, like I said, we designed this in conjunction with Landlocked Music, which is our local record store down in Bloomington. It was literally designed as the record store day beer. Obviously, we don't have a footprint quite the size of Dogfish Head, and we can't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We can't bestow record players to everyone. But the general idea
Did
was
they do that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you could tell how much
Yeah.
I cared.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
That wasn't even me being like sarcastic.
No,
or
they-
dirt. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think they partner with like Crosley or something, and they hand out this little briefcase record players. You can enter contests to win them at different record stores. But
okay.
we just did it to showcase local music, and there was a huge event there, and there was live music and different things like that. I know in Fort Wayne, I partnered with Neat Records. Neat. It's a triple neat.
Is it
not-
like
That's
Tony,
pretty
Tony,
neat.
Tony, but it's like neat is spelled 3 different ways?
No, neat is spelled the same way each time. It's actually a really groovy store. Not only do they have an amazing selection of vinyl, they're also a record label. So on Record Store Day, they had an actual launch of multiple different records that day, fresh vinyl being released. They have a small stage, and they had a bunch of their actual bands performing all day long, starting at, I think it was like 8 a.m. They had live music almost all day.
Kanye or
Oh, no, yeah.
8 a.m. I mean, that's some.
They totally represent Kanye.
No.
They-
Go Kanye.
oh, no, not that Kanye. But it was a really good time. I was there actually part of the day sampling out Soundbite, and they also featured Pedal to the Kettle and Champagne Velvet. We sold a lot of beer. A lot of people were super happy to see someone local representing rather than a outside source.
You
So-
made. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, how do you sell beer at a non-beer establishment?
They actually have a beer establishment. They have a small
Oh.
bar. They sell package only. They had cold brew on draft from a local coffee joint called Conjure.
So
Yeah.
can you sell beer to go and drink on premise in Indiana?
You can if you have the right license. They weren't selling beer to go. It was all right there. You drink it while you're listening to the music and hanging out and generally enjoying the festivities. But
See, I
there
think
are
that's-
certain accounts that are not only on premise but also off premise. You can buy a 6-pack of whatever you want to go.
So
at.
like 8 Degrees Play-Doh.
Yeah.
Well, the 8 Degrees charges a corkage fee.
Oh yeah, that we don't.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
we-
I think that's if you buy something and you want to crack it there. But I'm
Yes.
saying like there are a beer store and you can go in there and you can just buy a 6-pack and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got
Play-Doh,
word.
Collect,
Collect.
Marrow. I mean, there's plenty of places that are doing
Marrow.
it now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know about Marrow.
So I just got word that World Expo of Beer now has 803 submissions at this point.
For IPAs?
Yeah.
Or, oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
how
We
many
know where
are
batch
from
69
Stone?
ends up.
No, they're all crooked. It's what's left from Crooked Tree.
In regards to,
So how many variants?
I did the when I did the World Expo beer, and I was media during the actual tasting. So this was during the judging part of the contest. So everyone knew who I was. I sat down. I'm asking them questions. In between rounds, because like the rounds aren't like, all right, round number 1. It's all right. We're done with this beer. Let's go to the next beer. We're done with this beer. Let's go to the next beer, or next group, or next tasting. And I remember sitting down, and they went double IPA, Imperial Stout, double IPA, and they came back out with this crazy, like, it was another high ABV beer. I think it was Belgian Strong, and they literally told the
jeez.
waitress no. They said, you need to go back and bring us something light.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too is that they did not fuck around there in regards to World Expo beer. They had a category that had 3 beers, and they give away a bronze, a silver, and a gold, and they didn't give away a bronze during that 3 beer
Which category was that?
So I can recall the beer, and mind you, I like the beer, so I have no problem saying that what it is. It was some type of like adjunct porter, and the beer that did not get medal, even though it was only 3, was Magnalista Porter, which we brought up earlier.
yep.
Yes.
Call back, right?
Now, did you pour feet into my glass?
So I want to preface by saying that this has been in Michael Turriff's cellar.
So Michael Turriff cellar.
This is batch. or,
Like, is
excuse
this
me,
his like sex dungeon? 'Cause
Yeah, it
it's-
is.
It smells
This
like.
Is that the name of the beer? Sex
this
Dungeon?
is Sex Dungeon number
Sex
3. No,
It sounds like sex dungeon floor is what it
this,
smells like.
This is batch number 3 of our sour reserve. So Pedal to the Kettle, 2 of Tart's Modern Tart. Those are all part of our kettled sour series, or what we like to call our tart series. We like to maintain a space between our actual wood age sours and between our kettled sour program, because, as you've tasted, kettled sours are much more accessible, at least from our brewery, as far as our wood age sours go. Now, this would be our Gosa, or excuse me, our Goose. My mistake. Our Goose.
Duck.
It's 1, 2, and 3 year basis, which is our base sour blonde, blended together to create a harmonious love.
Ken, are you choking on this beer?
A little bit. Like
I
there's
haven't
like
had this.
sediment in there or something like that.
This is from 2013. This is old school.
Can I see the bottle real quick?
Damn.
Or,
Yeah,
pass it around.
Like
Yeah.
I just took a sip. I'm digging this.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
that
to
is
tell
sour
you.
as heck. I
This
like
is
that.
this is well before my time.
This is pretty
Why don't you just throw someone under the bus
Right?
while you're at it?
Yeah, this is our. Actually, I'm not even sure if anyone that put this together is still at Upland
Okay.
at this point. I'm not 100% sure. It's well before my time.
I'm
So
going to go out on a limb. I think, Ken, I
Talk
think
to
you'll
me.
know this flavor. Rob, I don't think you're going to know this flavor. This tastes like kohlrabi to me.
What?
Robbie.
Kohlrabi.
I've always seen it at Eastern Market. I've never bought any.
What is
Kohlrabi is like a broccoli, cauliflower root vegetable.
Kale. It's like kale.
But I'm
broccoli,
talking.
yeah.
But it's like a stocky brown vegetable or root vegetable.
Okay.
It looks like an alien ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very prevalent in German and Polish cuisine.
Yeah.
So this tastes like, and it's kind of like a mild. Yeah. Yeah.
kohlrabi, also called German turnip,
There we
is
go.
a biennial vegetable.
Rob
a
just had a-
low, stout cultivar of wild cabbage.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does kind of look like it a little bit.
So this tastes like kohlrabi. And I know that's
well-
nobody's ever explained a beer as in
Well,
kohlrabi. So.
I can't say that this tastes like that because I've never had it
Ken?
before. But
This is kicking me in the mouth.
Yeah.
So
kicking you in the mouth
I'm
in which way? Like
Not
too,
a good way.
too
So-
sour or
So up until recently,
It's fairly sour, and honest to God, every time that I'm drinking something, it tastes like there's almost like afterwash. Like there's little sediments that are like hitting my like.
I think it's
I'm wondering if you got from like the first pour out of the bottle.
I don't know.
Here,
I don't
probably
think
did.
it-
You
Drink
get
this one.
here, try another one.
because I'm not getting any sediment.
I'm not
in
getting
mine.
any sediment at all.
You
and
did get the second
Yeah.
pour.
I mean,
I
the,
feel
the,
like it tastes like a man out of a gym. With
the
So-
thing is
a
for
man out of a gym.
what?
Wait, so how do you feel about this? Because you didn't enjoy Pedal to the Kettle that much.
No, but this reminds me a lot of New Belgium's La Folie,
Yeah,
which is one of
that's
the few sours I like.
that's a really good sour.
Yeah,
So you like this?
I think this is actually enjoyable. Yes.
Harry would love this.
It's a good thing
I
I'm
mean,
not on camera.
and it's there's
He's over here sweating.
I mean, and there's been a
You're like-
couple of those.
I know it's warm in the studio right now.
There's
but
been
damn.
a couple of those where on the nose I just like, wait a minute, this does smell like gym socks after doing a marathon on a treadmill.
Yeah.
But it actually has the sour profile that's there. That's not.
Yeah.
I mean, unlike with Ken, I mean it's not kicking me in the mouth. I mean it's just
Yeah.
this is what I would assume smelling salts taste like.
The thing is, and when I first took the smell of Pedal to the Kettle, that was the first thing I thought was that I was thinking, holy shit, smelling salts. I was like, that I'm not sure how well this is gonna go.
Yeah.
This one, yeah, it just really does have that funk you up kind of smell
Oh, yeah.
that's hitting.
Is
But
Uptown?
Well, I get much
Yeah.
of a
No,
smell off
no,
of
we
this,
don't go
though.
uptown.
really?
You got to go back to the 70s. You know, back
Back to 70s.
back in my generation.
Stank.
You know,
So,
since I'm the old man at the table still.
So having had the most recent release of Sour Reserve, I will fully admit this is way more funky than the most recent recent release of Sour Reserve. It is also several years older. It's been sitting around, and this is a beer that you can cellar because there's not fruit in it. It's not something that is going to slowly degrade over time and lose that wonderfulness.
Yeah.
Like some of our whole fruited sours. The most recent Sour Reserve that I had, it had these lovely, like, kind of bright citrusy notes to it, almost champagne-y feel, but it did have more of a blue cheese kind of Jim Sake touch to it. But it was balanced out well with those nice kind of bright lemony notes.
Yeah.
I love
And
I
it
love
has
how
some
the
more-
way you presented Jim Sake made it sound very like
Sexy, right?
Elegant.
yeah, right. Just like and a little note of Jim
Just a touch of
Sake.
New Balance.
And
I
I mean,
actually-
the other thing that it's actually reminding me of, it like goes back to way back to one of our older episodes, is when we had Arbor Brewing on, and then they brought a bottle of the 20th anniversary sour barley wine.
Whoa.
And it's like that sour note that I'm getting from this is pretty much like just right along the same lines. So this is pretty damn good.
I like the idea of just bringing up cheese to it too, because that comes up a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing with cheese. And some people love the funkiest, weirdest, like
Yeah.
like foot cheese, and they're just like, yes, please, I want it.
My
room
dad
temperature,
is
runny.
really
down
stinkier
with
the better.
Limburger.
You
Give
know,
him a
Dude,
Limburger
stinkier-
sandwich. He's
Stinkier
happy.
the better
Like,
with
what the
cheese,
fuck?
and
Yeah,
nice, like some nice
exactly.
preserves.
But it's the same thing with beer. I find, like, you know, you can get something that's super stinky and funky and weird, but some people also just like craft singles, and there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with a craft single.
Yeah, you.
There's a time and a place for that.
There's a time and place
Grilled
for it.
cheese.
Grilled cheese.
So
Hey, if
Name
you're
a better
hey,
cheese for grilled cheese.
If you're not making your grilled cheese with the Velveeta block, you've missed the
What
boat.
the hell's
That's
what
a
about
fair
Munster?
Munster,
point.
man. Munster is
What?
a beautiful.
First of all, you shut your mouth. A Velveeta block?
you will never be invited back.
And I'm uninvited. Cool.
No.
What about a brie, man? A brie is a beautiful melting cheese for a grilled cheese.
I'm pretty sure that Velveeta is plastic.
Cut
I
his
don't think that
mind.
that's.
Velveeta? No.
Velveeta?
No.
It's not the
No.
same old size.
First, when you make a grilled cheese, you use shredded cheese because it melts faster and better in a grilled cheese.
I disagree.
And
no, grilled cheese is the
if you
money.
want to get,
It's just
you know,
science.
absolutely completely just wild with a grilled cheese, get some rye bread,
Oh.
mustard.
Girl preach.
Pepper.
Girl preach.
No
And then
mustard. Mustard is not involved in my
Gruyere
life.
is a great cheese.
Oh, man.
And then
No,
shredded
it's gonna be
cheese.
Gouda.
Gouda is also a
Smoked Gouda.
great one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
smoked Gouda.
Smoked Gouda, some Gruyere, little
Some
mustard.
Gruyere has
Here's
a
the thing,
really
like,
good.
You
we
guys
have
are
this
fucking
rule.
up the grilled cheese. The point of grilled cheese is simple: bread, cheese. That's it.
Yeah,
Get
I
out of this
changed the
Gruyere,
dynamic at all.
brie.
But cheese
But the thing
is
is, who
a
said you had to limit what
storied
cheeses you
thing,
put on
man.
it?
No, it's I'm sick. Mom's going to the fridge, and she's putting 2 pieces of bread on the griddle,
Ugh.
covering up, melting the cheese, and putting it together.
And it's
Mom's not going to get the fresh baguette to go to get the cheese.
But it's
Put some
all-
wine in my
hold
tomato
on.
soup.
So
Well,
And-
she's doing it wrong then, because wine in your tomato soup fixes everything.
I wanna fight
one
this
of
guy.
one of
My
the previous
grandma
guests.
was English, so my grilled cheese when I was a kid, if I was at grandma's house, was she would fry cheese in a pan and scrape it onto toast and slice
Oh,
of tomato.
that sounds awesome. I want that. Because crispy fried cheese, I don't care who you are.
She'd
Who
fry it
doesn't,
till it's melted
who
and has, like, a
doesn't
crispy
love
bottom,
that
and
crispy
she'd
fried
spread
cheese
it
on
toast.
nachos? That's
Go
what you
get
have.
some
Toast and slice
Saganaki.
of
Oh,
tomato
yeah,
that she salted.
baby. That's what I'm
was
talking
it.
about.
We'll take you. There's a bar right down the road
Yeah?
that does really good Saganaki,
Yes.
and you can go sing karaoke.
Opa.
You are
What is it,
literally speaking my
on the-
language.
On the rocks?
On the rocks.
On
They have
the
they have
rocks.
a
gonna
sneaky
get weird.
they have a sneaky good beer selection over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, they.
And it's not like the hardcore rare KBS whales,
Sure.
but when you're talking like I used to drink Shorts Controversial like 8 years ago there, as if it was
Back
not,
when it was
just,
the,
just
the-
a beer that they had.
the black and white label that
And
they used to have.
They try to balance kind of like 3 Next Scoreboard at Allen Park, that whole like blue
Yeah.
collar
Sure.
dive bar slash
Yeah.
because the person who makes the food there over at On the Rocks, Vuk, really amazing food
That's
over
awesome.
there.
Hold on. Rock
But it-
on 3rd, you mean?
No,
No,
on the Rocks.
It's in Madison Heights.
John R. 11 and a half.
Okay, I was thinking. Okay,
Mine
right
neck
up
of the
here.
woods.
I mean, this is the same place that allowed us to get a bucket of North Peak Diabolical.
Oh yeah.
A bucket. You'd expect if you get a bucket when you go to the bowling alley, you're gonna get High Life. Not that there's nothing wrong. High Life's a good
Champagne
bowling-
Velvet.
good champagne velvet. We got freaking North Peak Diabolical at a regular at this bar that Ken's talking
I
about.
did
Yeah,
pour
why
you
not?
guys a Pigeon Hill s'more something.
Yeah, it
Oh, yeah, I
smells
should probably pour
amazing.
this
I'm not gonna lie.
instead.
S'more Beast in my cup. It's a variant of their Majestic
I think
Beast.
we're following up
Sour with a
a
beast.
nine,
yeah.
what was this, a 6-year-old bottle of essentially goose of a
Yeah.
s'more beer.
Yeah,
Palates are going to be like,
By the
"What's
way,
happening?"
can I just throw out there because
you can throw out anything
I'm
you want.
super,
This is your show for the next 30 seconds.
Before we move along, I would just like to say that Upland's sour program is approaching its 14th year. And last year, our 20th anniversary, we actually won Best Sour in the World with our Raspberry American Lambic at the World Beer Cup. Yeah, 29 different countries, and we took it. And we can claim that for 2 years now as per the rules. So besides the fact that this may or may not be your cup of tea, go out there and try one of our fruited sours because it is a whole different experience from this. This is just our base sour blonde that's,
I'll be
that's
honest.
aged and blended.
And I mean this in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I usually don't like the way a sour smells.
Yeah.
But I usually am okay with it once I taste it. This is the first sour that I've neither liked the smell or the taste.
and it's got some time on it. It's
Yeah,
got,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It does have like our fresh fruited sours. They literally should not be aged because they lose all their fruit characteristics.
And
But
I don't mean in a bad way. It's just
Yeah.
like it kind of throws me off because I'm used to smelling it and this is funky, and then there's all these notes that I couldn't smell that I taste now. And
I mean, I guess my thing is that I go into sours with completely low expectations. So, I mean,
expectation.
Oh yeah.
so
Hi,
yeah,
I'm Stephen
you know,
Morris.
Yeah.
between, I mean,
I
still,
love you once you love me.
for me, like my worst sour, I think is the Arc Light Peach, which you
Yeah.
know, for everybody who loves
so
that's
good.
Yeah.
awesome. But you know, when I had that at Winter Beer Fest, it was just it was like Johnny Mnemonic when like all the data got uploaded and it's like his like wincing in pain was like it was just that. And then there was no peach at all. I'm like, where the fuck is the peach? It was just pain.
You just wanted
can't they call it
peach
that?
metaphor from Holmes is what you want.
Which was the best sour that I had during Winter Beer Fest, and I have a can at home, and I will.
drink it now before it goes to this.
He's got 5 more years.
Or you mean when it? Or
I
do
mean,
you mean when it
fruited
goes into
sours
this?
should not be aged, and that's something that I think. And no offense to the beer nerds out there, because I know that there are beer nerds that actually know what they're doing.
No, they don't.
Thank you for saying that. I didn't want to. There are beer nerds out there that, oh my God, I have your pawpaw from 1998.
I thought you said pop off.
No. We
Yeah, it's
actually
pawpaw.
we have a
It's
pawpaw
vodka.
sour. Yeah,
Straight
The
vodka.
Indiana banana?
Yeah,
Pawpaw?
the Indiana banana. I actually just heard a new one. I think it was the hillbilly mango, which I thoroughly enjoyed
doesn't have
as
the right
well.
alliteration. I don't
No,
like
it doesn't. But Indiana banana it does. But they'll say like, oh, I've had it for like 13 years and I'm sitting on it. It's like,
What are you sitting on it for?
You're doing it wrong. You obviously
That
don't
pawpaw,
understand because
She gone.
yeah, if it's a bottle conditioned beer, whatever bacteria and yeast that are left are eating up every single teeny tiny bit of digestible sugar possible, and then you end up with something that's overcarbonated.
Yeah.
And it's dry as a damn bone.
It goes back to one of our older shows where I can't remember who it was that we had on, but they basically said that, you know, when the brewer is done with it and it is bottled or canned and it's ready to go, those are the flavors that the brewer intends for you to
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah.
And it's not for you to
Hashtag
just
don't
sit
age
there.
beer.
Hashtag don't age beer, of course.
Well, our 500 mils that are crown capped, we actually flash pasteurize those guys because we want you to experience the flavors right as they're ripe and ready to go.
Like Revive.
Yeah, like Revive, Prim, Iridescent. Revive is pineapple and chamomile. Thank you. Prim is plum and cardamom. Iridescent is apricot and ginger. These beers are extremely flavor forward, and you start sipping on them, and it's unlike anything that you're used to. It's nothing like what we are drinking right now. It is very fruit forward with this lovely backbone of this acidity that kind of rounds everything out. They're very food friendly. Also, honestly, a 500 mil of Revive, I will crush and immediately open another one.
There's not a day that I don't bring Upland up in the market where I have a buyer that's familiar with it doesn't ask me about Revive.
Because Revive is, and we've already sold out of it for the year. It is just crushing it.
They
Absolutely
they
crushing
put it on their brew schedule and got us all excited that it was going to be new all year, right? So it used to be a seasonal thing, and then they updated their brew schedule like it's not going to be available all year while supplies last.
Yeah,
And then
the
supplies
like
lasted-
3 months in,
They moved it as an all year available, but then the supplies lasted less time than when they did as a seasonal.
we just crushed it. Now that it's part of our national
Didn't
schedule.
even leave Bloomington.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I fully answered you. I believe it's 25 areas around the country. However, we are also now in Canada, the Netherlands, North Korea is looking at us, and Japan is
North
looking at
Korea.
us.
North Korea.
North Korea or South Korea?
South Korea. Oh my God! I just ruined Upland for the everything. The
Koreans.
No, well, I think that would have been like a whole nother line of questioning. I feel.
This is. And I can't tell you what Kim Jong Un likes
the
or
number
doesn't
one
like.
thing that
He wants Revive.
I don't know if you would have ruined
Kim Jong was on. Kim Jong was on some.
on some beer labels.
He was on some forums, and all he saw was all this talk about Paw Batch 1, and he just had to bring in Upland.
Guys, it was great meeting you all. I'll never see you again because I'm officially fired.
We might have
And we have
actually.
UN sanctions on our
we
show
might have
now.
actually
Oh, I
gone
just got
political.
that text. Awesome. It was great working with y'all.
Before we go, I do have someone in chat mention that they had a company party over at Upland Brewing,
Oh, no way.
and they drank them out of Dragonfly IPA.
Doesn't surprise me.
So
Dragonfly IPA.
Maybe brew some more of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the #1 Indiana brewed IPA. We brew more of that than the next 2 beers combined.
In Indiana or of your style, of your brand?
No, we brew more Dragonfly than we do of the next 2 of our beers combined. So they would be wheat ale and champagne.
I didn't know
velvet.
if that you brewed more of that IPA than the next 2 IPAs in Indiana.
No.
combined. Okay.
We brew more Dragonfly than any other brewery in Indiana brews an IPA, and we sell more of it than any other Indiana brewery sells.
yeah, I can't
IPA,
think of
so
another good IPA from Indiana.
That's because there's
I
not
can't think of
one.
another brewery in Indiana, to be
Well, I
honest.
mean,
Three Floyds.
Oh, yeah. I
But
guess
everyone
I-
considers that Chicago.
I'm
so that
always-
doesn't
I
count,
stand by
yeah.
my
I
statement.
will say that well, I have family
Yeah.
that's in Indiana, and I've always been a fan of some Sun King too. It's like Sun King.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
You watch Parks and Rec, and actually, Dragonfly is the beer of Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And
Anytime they hold a beer, it's like going to be a Dragonfly.
before we
Purple
go,
label.
I want to ask you guys all a question
Talk
before
to
we
me.
go.
Go with it.
Before we go, we'll start with Kyle.
Champagne Velvet.
Locked in.
What is the worst beer you've ever had?
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding. I asked that
actually-
question because
I-
he said champagne velvet. That
I
wasn't
actually
the real question.
I had an answer to that. and
Damn,
that's
I was
the
ready
sad
for that.
part. That
I
is
can't
the
answer-
really
I'm not
sad
allowed
part.
to answer
I
that.
did.
No, it's not the real question.
Okay,
I was
thank you, because I didn't want to put
I'm
that
about to
brewery
leave.
on blast.
I made the question because he said champagne velvet before I asked the question.
Okay. I was like,
I was so ready for that one.
No. So, you guys go to a concert. It's a summer concert. So here
Yeah.
we got DTE, Indiana. I'm sure they have some outdoor venue. What is the drink or beer that you're going for while you're at a concert? Because again, you're pacing yourself. You're listening to music. You're in a community
I'm
event.
pacing myself?
Yeah.
I hope
Well,
you
it depends
are.
on the concert.
Yeah, what concert are you going to?
You don't go.
I mean,
don't
the
go to
last
Pine
concert I
Knob.
went to was Bare Naked Ladies. So.
Oh, so you were just high as a kite, weren't you?
I'm not one to partake. I let everyone else around me go for it, no problem.
Yeah.
I did see the Whalers and 311 in the same show, and I did get a contact for
That
sure.
doesn't surprise me at all.
The
You were-
Hartford Whalers?
Yeah.
No, Bob Marley's band.
Hartford Whalers. What the fuck?
The color
Hartford,
of your
the Whales beating the
Amber is
Canucks
the
like
color of
this?
your energy. You know that whole thing. 311 and the Whalers. Yeah.
But no, like, what do you guys go for when you go to a concert? Like, it doesn't matter who you're
I
seeing
mean,
or anything like that.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a cheap bastard, and if I'm at a concert, the beers are probably gonna be like $14 for a bottle.
Right.
So whatever isn't $14 for a bottle, if it's PBR, cool. If it's Miller High Life, cool. I tend to gravitate towards those light, easy drinking lagers. So one of those guys. And if there's cocktails, then I will probably do the exact opposite and do an old fashioned or a Manhattan or a really solid whiskey on the rocks.
Yeah, that mustache just says Manhattan Whiskey on the Rocks.
I think it says Rob Roy.
ooh.
Really? Really?
You know, if I'm in the right mood, especially when the weather gets a little chilly, a Rob Roy is money in the bank. My father would be so proud to hear me say that too, because that's one of his favorites. He loves going to bars and being like, "I'll have a Rob Roy." You don't know what that is, do you?
Just get a card made and carry it around with what a Rob Roy is.
Literally, yeah. He's like, "I'll have this."
Jenny, what about you?
Oh man, if we're talking about beer, I'm the same way. I mean, literally no one is carrying beer, so no.
Well, you're doing a really bad job as a salesperson. Though.
You're not wrong. But what I would say would be like Tecate, Cerveza del Rey, like a Mexican style lager is probably what I'm drinking first and foremost. If not, then tequila. Dude, what are you talking about? If you're not at a
both?
show and drinking tequila,
A little,
it's usually
one
both.
in the other. Just pour it in the beer. yeah.
Tequila.
It's
All
usually
right.
both.
Yeah, I mean, High Life.
I mean, nothing wrong with the highlight.
I just want like one time I went to a craft beer symposium and it was hosted by Otis Supply.
That is.
And there was
That's
loads of
what I
panels.
hosted.
Symposium.
Weren't you?
Yeah, you were.
I was
And Travis
hosting
Fritz,
that.
and yeah, there was just it was a nice panel, and me and the Sellerman's guys about drank Otis Supply out of High Life. That just gives you an idea.
That I still remember the conversation between Dom and John Pipenbrock, and I
was
just
gonna say that, but okay.
yeah, you watch those two go because obviously they each have John really toes the corporate line, no matter who he's working for, whereas Dom's just like.
Fuck it.
Yeah, I'd never heard him that way before, Dom. And then
It's because he had a lot of High Lifes.
yes, probably.
I saw him drink them.
Probably. What about you, Rob?
So I guess if I'm hanging out at Pine Knob, because no self-respecting person ever calls it fucking DTE, because it's Pine fucking Knob. I don't care what the fuck anybody wants to call it.
Yeah.
It's Pine Knob. But if I'm out there, as far as a beer, I wouldn't care. I'd probably just grab. I would love to just sit there and just hang back and have Motor City Brewing Works' pineapple jalapeno IPA. That would be.
What venue carries that?
Yeah, what place carry?
Hey,
that serves
you
that
said
beer?
pick a beer. I don't give a fuck if they don't. If they just happen to carry
I'm sorry, but you made a choice to say
did.
you're
I
at
made
Pine Knob.
I
Does Pine Knob carry that?
Pine Knob
don't
carries
give
badass.
up.
I think they do
What?
Pine Knob pills from.
I'll walk
They
in
better.
with a.
Otherwise,
I'll walk in with
he's
a
not
case.
drinking anything.
I'll
have to
show.
have
I'll
Pine
show
Knob
up.
pills,
Yeah.
I'll show up
Nope.
with my ticket and a case. I'm like, I don't need your
Ticket
beer.
in-
I'm good.
Case in the what? The parking lot?
Damn right.
Okay.
And I mean, if I'm stuck with cocktails, then I'll just have make me a Godfather. Now that'll be good.
What's a
Yeah.
Godfather? I've never heard of that.
It's
Isn't that a pizza?
let's not bring up
Marlon
Herman Cain.
Brando?
Let's not bring up
It's an
Herman
offer
Cain.
you
Herman the
can't
Hurricane.
A
Yes.
Godfather is it's bourbon
my.
and amaretto.
Yeah.
1-1.
Oh my.
Nick?
Pine Knob Pilsner.
Pine Knob.
Pine Knob Pilsner.
That's a good
the
Rochester
last,
Mills.
Yep, the last few, because I know I think they still serve it over there at Pine Knob. I work for the freaking company, and I still call it Pine Knob.
DT. Matt, what about you? What are you drinking when you're going to see whatever music you
So-
listen to?
Yeah,
A
when you go
vape
see
pen.
Kid Rock. fucker.
Do I look like the vape pen crowd? I mean,
Kind of.
Kind of.
what?
It sounds like do you have it in your back pocket?
It's been a
It's
good
the
run.
goatee.
You look like
I've been fired. You're quitting. This is a great podcast,
So-
guys. This is
you look
wonderful.
like you would secretly go see Vampire Weekend. That's just all I got.
I would not secretly go see Vampire. No.
I would just go see them.
The last concert I went to was in Tinley Park, Illinois.
yeah, yeah.
At
Tinley
the
Park,
amphitheater,
yeah.
the casino amphitheater,
Yeah.
and I went to see Luke Bryant. And yeah, country guy.
Country
Okay.
guy.
That explains some things.
Oh, Luke
They
Bryan,
were
yeah.
they were selling Bud Light, Miller Light, Tall Boys for like $14 a
Yeah,
piece.
exactly.
Did you have to say "woo" when you ever bought one?
No. However, what they would do,
Oh God!
What they would do.
kick the dust up. Yeah, they would give you a 4-pack like you get at the Kroger thing
Oh,
for
yeah?
wine, and you would get them like $1 off. So if you would buy
my God.
4 of them at once,
baby.
On the
you would
s-
get them for $52.
On the side of the carrier, it said hee juice.
So you would buy 4 Tall Boys for $52.
It's captive
Holy
audience, man. They can
shit.
charge whatever the hell they want because where else are you going to drink?
To which, at the end of the night, we realized we spent more on beer than we did on concert tickets and the hotel room. and we
You
got a
actually
suite
spent $52.
on multiple 4-bags.
Oh
so we
my
probably spent
God.
like $300 on beer that night. Do you have any idea how long a Luke Bryan concert is?
Do you know how,
About 3
that's-
hours.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a lot of Miller Lite, but
It's
then
a
I
lot of
remembered it's
Bud Light.
$14 a
Oof.
can. So
That's why you got to show up to a Luke Bryan concert at least 2 bottles in.
Yeah.
And bottles, I mean whiskey.
can I add an addendum? If I go to a hockey game to see the Detroit Red Wings,
Molson?
no, I get a Le Fin du Monde.
Oh.
So
He
hold
loves
on,
Le
hold
Fin
on,
du
hold
Monde.
on.
He really does.
So back when the rave tent was over at Joe Louis,
Yep.
you could get Le Fin de Monde for dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Dirt cheap.
Oh, there was a couple of games that I went there, and I'm really lucky I had a ride home.
I
So
went-
had like 4 Le Fin du Mondes, and I was like, whoa,
I went.
I'm ready to put a fork in it.
I went and saw one of the
It's
final
11% every
one of the
time.
final wrestling shows at Joe Louis. So I went. I got whatever
They
the
had Le Fin du Monde at a wrestling show?
it was at Joe Louis.
At Joe
so-
Louis.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to the rave tent. I had got some Dark Horse or whatever, and then the second time I went down, I'm like, you know what? How much is the Le Fin? And it was the exact same price. And I'm like, you're telling me a Belgian, it's $12 for like a draft tall boy of this? I'm like, okay.
So I went to the
Here we
WrestleMania.
go. Tonight is
I went to the
getting
WrestleMania
weird.
that was at Joe Louis Arena.
There was no WrestleMania at Joe
Was it
Louis.
not? Was that at
Ford
Joe-
Field.
Was that Ford? It was at Ford Field.
Yeah, that was
That was
Yeah.
fun.
Well, we got wrestling there too. You got
Yeah.
to come correct.
that was fun.
Yeah.
So
That was-
so
I
the
need to know
last.
yours.
What's
Yeah.
your hold on? We got to get back to you.
Yeah.
What's your beer at a concert?
So most likely it's going to be one of 2 beers from
Chinese
Rochester
chicken?
Mills. No,
Red?
It's going to be Rochester Red or chocolate stout, milkshake
Chocolate
stout.
rain.
Nearly any venue you go to has something from Rochester Mills, whether it's Ford Field or it's Joe Louis or it's DTE. LCA, anything
my
like
God.
that. It always has Rochester Mills. If they don't have Rochester Mills, like for some reason, whatever reason it is, usually I'm going with whatever the cheapest and the easiest to drink is.
Yeah.
I'm definitely when I can't find something that I want the most alcohol for the most price or the least price.
Yeah.
That's why you got to get
That's
in
a
tight
really-
with the people over
I
at
do.
your
I
place
do
of business
the
and get into the suite over
ABV. So
there.
usually I go with a Canadian beer. Like if we
yeah.
when we used to go to the Ritz all the time, I would get pitchers of Molson because it was almost the same. It was like $1 more for Molson than it was for Coors Light.
I mean, Labatt's one of the most popular beers in the city of Detroit.
I see. I'm a Molson guy over Labatt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God, I love Labatt though.
I don't hate it, but if you gave me like a choice between the two,
Yeah.
I would go with Molson 100 times out of 100.
I've never had Molson, but there was a bar in Chicago I used to frequent with a buddy of mine that had a Labatt Blue special, and it was like $2 for a
Well,
bottle.
that's because
of
they
that
only
shit.
recently
Oh, man.
started selling Labatt in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, this was like 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Well, yeah, but I lived in Chicago at the turn of the century in like 02. And
It's so
1902?
crazy to say that. Yeah.
Turn of the century.
the most recent century.
Oh,
But that was the
that-
time.
that's
That
interesting.
was the time it was to be in Chicago.
Oh
let me tell
boy, let me tell you what.
It's a bomb, baby. I barely survived the fire.
you. Yeah.
Um,
Boy, that lady's cow kicked over a lantern and made quite a fuss.
The horseless carriages were a wonder.
oh man,
It's basically my line, apparently.
Can somebody stop it because it's gonna go.
Yep. You know what, Matt? You're done with your story. We're done with the show. Better on Draft episode 174. M4 CIC, thank you so much for coming in. You can find them
Thank you.
on Instagram, M4_CIC. Upland Brewing, you can find them on Instagram, Upland Brew Co. Do you want to give your personal one? Is that? I mean,
yeah, sure. It's Beard's beer, but they're both
That's
spelled
with the
beer.
letter
It's a
N.
little confusing. Yeah, it's BEERDS, the letter N, and then beer.
All right, that's Beards and Beer. Obviously, you can see the rest of our Instagrams on our video, which you can find at facebook.com/Better on Draft, as well as our YouTube page, Better on Draft. You can follow us on all of our socials: Instagram, Better on Draft; Twitter, Better on Draft; Facebook, Better on Draft. Untapped, you can see all the beers we drink each and every week at BOD Podcast. That's BODPODCAST. Of course, subscribe to us, like us on iTunes, leave us a review, give us 1 stars, give us 5 stars. I don't care. A review's a review.
buy your My Beer Box. My Beer Box are now shipping for Mother's Day.
Yes, My Beer Box for mothers. If your mother likes craft beer, definitely get her a My Beer Box, mibeerbox.com. Hey, moms like craft beer.
Yes,
My
they
mom
do.
You are
listens
the
to
reason
this
why
show.
they drink. So
My mom does not.
You
Oh,
are the
good God.
Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
There we go. go.
Guys, that's going to do it. Guys, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you
we got
guys.
some maybe half empty bottles that we need to make sure we finish before we go.
Yep.
And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's
Bet on draft, you saying?
Yeah, Shane, with the horseless carriage.
You all just got muted. Better on draft. Have a good night.